Galactic Soul, the Honorable Brother, the Revolutionary yourself, Darius Lockhart, and I'm here to tell you to watch Powerbombshells every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern on the Fight Game Media YouTube channel. That's right, every Sunday at 1 p.m. and that's on time, every time, because when we stand together, what time is it? That's right, it's nation time.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 110 of Powerbombshells. I am Sam, that is Mel. We are just two broads talking about the wrestling we watch, and we are back after a 2-week hiatus. Thank you to Brad, who has a welcome back chant for us.
Thank you, Brad.
Which we appreciate, and we appreciate your understanding of needing to take a little bit of a break for a couple of weeks. For those of you who don't know or have not seen, I had a lot of you are familiar because you have been a part of this journey with me since we found out. But in October of 2022, my then at the time she was 10 years old. My cousin was diagnosed with an inoperable brain tumor and DIPG, which is a fairly rare disease or cancer that typically affects children. And she was given a 12 to 18 month prognosis, and she made it 16 months and 28 days. So the first week that we missed, it was that Monday we found out that they had decided to stop treatment because actually Sunny decided she wanted to withdraw. She wanted to stop treatment. So her parents honored her wishes. And then that Friday, we found out she had 48 hours. And so obviously Mel was extremely understanding. Everybody at Fight Game Media, extremely understanding. And so I got to spend that Sunday, I got to spend a few hours with her, which was really nice. And I'm glad that I got that. And then, so on Monday, March the 25th, she passed at 7:11 a.m. And then she had a celebration of life that Friday. And actually the day before, her school did they did something really nice for her. It was a candlelight memorial, and she had students and teachers came and spoke, and it was really nice. And so with Easter being there, and I felt too soon to come back. And so Mel was really great and was just like, we can do whatever you want to do. And so I just decided to take an extra week off, and I'm really glad that I did. And so I appreciate Mel being super supportive the entire time. Fight Game Media has been really supportive of my editors at the websites that I write for. They've all been super supportive, and you guys, I've heard from some of you, and I truly appreciate all the support that you have given me over all of this time, but especially over the last 2 weeks. So I just wanted to make sure before we started to dive into 2 weeks worth of things that we've missed that I just wanted to say thank you so much for everything, and thank you for your support, and thank you for allowing me to have a couple of weeks to just kind of to adjust to this and to go through that process.
I have all the empathy for you, and again, because like you said, you're my bestie now. Like, you're one of my besties. You're someone I spend a lot of time with. We talk to each other a lot during the week. Like, you can't.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of, we've talked about this over time just because of being disabled. Thanks, Leon. We missed you too, David. Thank you, guys.
But, yes, thank you.
Just as an overall, of course. And I'm glad. And I also appreciate all of the Fight Game Media people and all of our Power Bombshell posse is, I think, what we ended up landing on. Super supportive, yes. Totally understanding, knew exactly what was going on. It's amazing how many people just were following. She was a part of our family too, in a way. And so it was it felt really important to make sure that Sunny was honored properly and that you got the time. And I think we talk about this a lot, and a lot of creators talk about this, is we don't do this for money. We do this because we love what we're doing, and we like hanging out with each other, and we love our network, and we love the people that the network has brought us together
absolutely.
With over the last, this is our third Mania together, Sam. It's our third
Mania.
Yeah,
I guess it is. It is 3.
It's not 3 years, but it's our third Mania because of when we started. So
yeah, that's right.
I was like, this is great. And I also super appreciate just the tons of support. I can't I couldn't pass on enough good wishes. And I mean, it's just amazing people. And you guys rock. Keep up the good work. It's nice to know that all the wonderful humans out there that not just tune into this, but just that knowing that you're out there makes the world brighter.
Yeah,
there's a lot. There's a lot.
It is a lot. It's nice to have a community, especially in a time like this where you just, I mean, obviously we always kind of knew it was coming and we just, dealt with it the best we could. And then it got really real those last, 2 weeks. And even before then, like, cause I saw her like end of January, early February, and she was already having some regression issues and having issues speaking. But we played she loved playing Uno and was very competitive at it. We played a couple rounds of Uno and she won a game and I won a game. And then but I could see it then that it was she was starting to have some issues. And then within a few weeks after that, she became completely immobile. Which is I think the hardest part and what I've learned, because I had no idea what DIPG was until Sunny was diagnosed. And then it was really hard just to watch her. She was trapped in her own body because her mind was still there and she was still, even up until the end, her personality was still there. Like her mom was cleaning her mouth out and she like pretended she was going to bite the pipe down on the thing and she like was rolling her eyes at her mom. So even then that was the day before. So with the day we came to see her. So like she was still in there, which, I guess is still good. And she knew we were there and she opened her eyes a few times. And so it was nice to finally get some time, to get those few minutes with her, or not few minutes, it was a couple of hours with her. And, but you, like I said, and I appreciate you, going to the Discord and because I'm obviously not in the Discord and you let everybody know what was going on. And I appreciate that. Mel was just like, whatever you need, it's taken care of. So I really appreciate it. And even Nikki says, the support was great. And it meant a lot to both of us to have that support from you guys and to have our little community that we've built. And and I think that just shows you like I knew that we had a community here and I knew that it was a good one, but then I really got to see it the last couple of weeks. And so it's really nice to know that we have our little community who's here with us every single week, or even if they're not here every week, they're here more often than not, which is really appreciated, and that they want to spend their time with us, which I appreciate so much.
Yeah, because you know how valuable time is. And
right.
I mean, it's exactly why we love you guys. And I appreciate it. And I mean, and for me, it's the best thing that I can offer people is like being there, because it's like you don't want your friends and family to feel bad, and you don't want people to hurt, and you know what grief feels like, and you could totally empathize. And the best thing in my world is just be there. And I think that, and then I mean my advice, which is always sort of like the paradoxical advice that I always give people, is don't let people tell you how to grieve.
Yeah,
because everybody, it's a journey and it's different for everyone. And I think that having the reason you build a community is because of times like, not just because of the great times you have, but because life throws curveballs at us perpetually.
For sure.
And absolutely. So it's awesome. And I felt a big shout out, especially to like just the Fight Game Media people, like our family at Fight Game Media. You guys rule.
They do.
I mean, it's awesome to like have someone just sort of put their arms around you as a community and be like, whatever you guys need, wherever you went, and I love it's like I never felt any like pressure, and just it's so great to feel love.
Yeah,
we're having a big love fest for you guys.
Even just like sending in the slate on Friday, sending in the slate for this yesterday, and Garrett was just like, "Welcome back," and then that was really nice to have, and so it's just nice that they gave us the space that that we needed and. Or that I needed, and that they didn't pressure us to put out content or anything like that. They were just like, do whatever you need to do, come back when you're ready. And so of course I thought, the last couple of weeks too, I was like, well, we missed a few things, but nothing too bad. And then like they were like, "Oh, you're coming back this week? The floodgates are going to open."
Well,
It
I
was funny
figured
'cause-
we would catch up, and everyone knew. I mean, I think is because we were sort of discoursing a little. I think everyone knew when Motor City was a thing, like we were going to talk about it because if
Yeah,
you've
I
been following
almost
us
was
for
like,
even like an episode, I don't think probably. I mean, it's hard to know, and we'd have to listen back. But we pretty much mentioned Motor City like one time at least on almost every show.
it
They're
seems like it. It's pretty darn close.
I have
think.
other like names like that on other podcasts that
Sure.
are funny, but I think for us it's Motor City Machine Guns. Like we
Probably.
are perpetually.
Yeah, I think for a
just-
while it was like Bad Dude Tito and like anything strong related.
Yep.
And then it has like kind of morphed into like we still talk about those guys and we still love them. But then yeah, Motor City
They're
has
playing a
definitely-
gymnasium 23 minutes away. No, 28 minutes away from me. And
Oh really?
yeah, for this. Okay, so there's this place called City Championship Wrestling, and it's local to me, like super local. I didn't realize that's like 30 minutes away. It's high school gym, so I'm so excited. I love super indie, but they're booked for their anniversary. So their 3-year anniversary is coming up, and they're booked for their anniversary show. And so I'm gonna look at. I think it's the end of May. So I'm gonna try and get over there because 30 minutes away. I'm pretty sure it's not gonna like clash with any of this stuff. I think it's on a Saturday.
Oh, nice.
I gotta get over there. I feel like
yes, I hope you can.
Because
that's
I just was like, oh my god, these two booking themselves for this promotion. There's like I was reading like the indie people that are on there and trying to like familiarize myself with the promotion a little bit and watching some of their hype videos and stuff on there. Because I've never really heard of them until a friend like up something and I was like, oh, Motor City's doing this with them.
That's so cool.
I was like, God, you two are awesome. Look at you supporting the literal local wrestling community.
Yeah.
Like, it made me feel so good and like warm and fuzzy. But feature seats are like $10. I'm like, I think I need to be at this.
Yeah, I think you do.
I thought that would make you happy and excited.
It does. That
I
does
was
make
like,
me happy.
I need to go to. I haven't had an indie promo since like Evolve went away and the pandemic. And so I may as well hook up with one now, especially if those guys are supporting it.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I need to remember to send that graphic to John Muse because I like to ask him. Sometimes he knows something about stuff and sometimes he doesn't know. And so we'll like jam about like funny stuff because he's local too. So
yeah, that's very cool.
There is a ton of local wrestling here. I mean, it's about being able to afford it and being able to get there for me.
I understand. For sure. Yeah, and we've got we'll talk about it more next week, but like so Ashe has the show on the 19th, and then during our hiatus, Title Belt announced that they were coming back. And so they've got a show May the 3rd, I think. And it's at a different
wrestling
venue.
Time.
Yeah, and so it's at a venue I've never been to before. That's like across town, and so I'm super excited. There's no talent's been announced yet, but we went ahead and got tickets Friday because we're like we're gonna, those are our people. We're gonna support them. So I was like, it doesn't matter. And so we are like our group went ahead and we got tickets, and so we're all planning to go. But that's
what I want to do. I want to touch base with my buds that we haven't seen since Evolve and be like, guys, look over here.
Right. Yeah.
Come hang out.
Yes, definitely.
So, because I don't know if I'm getting to a big show this year. It may not be the year for it.
Yeah, no, I completely understand.
Unless they lower interest rates. Am I right?
Yeah. Capitalism and things.
There. And that was Financial Minute with Powerbombshells. See, 2 weeks and nothing changed. Thank you. We never change, people. We just get better.
Exactly. Thanks, Eddie. We are finally back. Thanks for being patient with us while we took some time.
Took some water.
Appreciate it.
Running my yap. I haven't talked in 2 weeks. I haven't talked to anyone.
I know. I was like, let me refill my water and make sure and I was like, between that and my allergies, which is why I'm wearing glasses, because yesterday I was like, these have to come out. I was like, I've got to take my contacts out. I can't do it. I was like,
Damn.
My eyes are way too itchy.
Oh my gosh. So it's been hot and cold here. And I mean,
Same here.
It's like And the weather's been wild and all the same as the rest of the country right now. But I get, from my weather bug, it gives you pollen alerts and stuff because I have allergies, and we've talked about we've talked about Nikki and Bob's terrible allergies and your allergies, and so we're all allergic.
We are.
And it's sometimes I'm like, ooh, 9. That's really, it was 10.2 today. I don't think.
Oh gosh.
It gives me a little alerts. It's like pollen alert, 8, 7, 9, I think is the highest. It was like 10.2. I'm like, oh my God, I'm walking through pollen. There's nothing I can do. Turn off the humidifier. It'll just hang in the drawer.
Right, exactly.
Oh my gosh, I can't. It's even like wild. The weather has been wild. Wrestling has been wild. It's tumultuous.
It's been like,
there's been earthquakes on
wild
the
is
East
a good
Coast.
word. What'd you say?
There's been an earthquake on the East Coast.
I know, right after an earthquake in Taiwan, like a week before. I told somebody, I was talking to somebody the other day. I was like, Mother Earth is a little pissed off right now.
That's what I keep thinking.
You should listen to her. She's getting angry.
The volcanoes in Iceland.
She's doing earthquakes on the East Coast. She's mad.
Yeah, they don't like.
You're not taking her seriously.
It's so funny because I grew up on the East Coast, but I lived on the West Coast for over a decade. So I was there for almost 15 years. And I was in one of the biggest earthquakes that Seattle has had at my second year out there in the last like 80 years or something. And the only reason it wasn't as devastating as like the one you saw in the Bay Area in the 80s or whatever, in the late 80s, was because it was so deep. If it had been closer to the surface, like some of these other ones are, like the ones that happen in Taiwan, they're more devastating the closer they are, like the epicenter is to the surface. It's like how it works. If it had been like not as deep, it would have been like the one that took out Fukushima and that had and they have the indigenous peoples that live in Washington State have in their records, like they talk about like their history. They can tell you stories of like their ancestors say this happened and this happened. And there's this geoscientist that did a huge study on it. It was a great article on National Geographic. I'm a total nerd about this stuff. So volcanoes, earthquakes, Dante's Peak, one of my favorite movies of all time. Love it. Hilarious. But like, so it is in their historical tradition. And so he went to them, and then he also was like in Japan when that Fukushima earthquake happened, which is what triggered his interest in the Pacific Northwest. If that one had been closer to the surface, it would have done the same thing. Like,
oh wow, that's crazy.
But so now, like, a 4.8, like David Garrett said it Friday, a 4.8, you're like, meh. I don't even think about that. But on the East Coast, like our infrastructure is not made for that.
It is not. Brad said that he said the earthquake was loud. I thought it was a neighbor upstairs who put stuff around again. Yeah, and it was funny because like a guy that I play fantasy baseball with is in Connecticut, and he felt it. And then, but I was talking to a couple of friends in Maryland because some people said it went as far down as Maryland, but I talked to some friends in Maryland, they didn't feel it at all, and like so it was. A couple of people was really, and like it, I had some friends that were in there for like Mania and stuff, or Mania weekend, and like they didn't feel it, and some of them, it's crazy how like who felt it and who didn't.
My friends were super next door to it, was why I messaged him immediately when I saw where the epicenter was, because he's like 30 miles away or something. I was like, oh my God, Robo Duke, did you feel the earthquake? And he's like, yeah, I almost ran out of my house in my underwear. He's like, fortunately, I've been in one before, so I realized. But again, it's not as common, so it takes your brain longer in the East process than in the West, because in the West, you're like, okay, we just had a tremor, whatever, because it happens. But it's like having a hurricane on the East Coast. You're like, okay, well, bummer, it's hurricane season.
Right.
Get your bread and milk.
It's like it's gonna snow too. Get your bread.
Yeah, right. And TP. Don't forget to load up on the TP.
Yeah, so. Right.
But anyway,
Definitely.
so yeah, they're geo and weather time with us as well.
Yes.
Just had to get that
Yeah, we
in
have to
there.
bring,
But I
we just
agree
have to,
with you because
we're hitting all, we're just going to get to all the hits today, apparently.
I agree with you. I think like I think that the planet, she's sick of this shit. Like,
She's very mad.
I mean, you don't just, that's like, there's only been 4 of those recorded there in the
Yeah,
last
like
like
I feel like
hundreds of
the
years.
earthquake in Taiwan was like a little warning, like, hey, are you paying attention? Oh, you're not? Let's do
Let me
one.
have one where we don't usually have one.
Then we'll see if you're gonna pay attention.
And
And
they had buildings
they're like,
fall
and
down.
there's gonna be a lunar. She's like, a lunar eclipse on Monday. Let's really freak them out.
Oh
Let's.
no, it's solar eclipse.
Or yes, the solar. That's right. The lunar was 2 weeks ago. The solar is Monday. She's like, she's like, I'm really gonna freak them out now. They won't listen to me.
I kind of can't wait until tomorrow just because I'm so interested, because I was like, there's all these scientists that can only do their studies like every so often, but I was watching a whole thing on these guys who study animals.
Mm-hmm.
And so they did the one in 2017 and they're studying
Yeah.
like the same animals to see how they act. So he gets to like update his thing. And I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, I think we're obviously not in like the direct path, but I think like they were saying like we were going to get like maybe 60%, but then they were worried that I think I haven't seen the update in the last couple of days, but they were saying something about it might be too cloudy here to really even notice anything. So
Michigan is going to be partly sunny and partly cloudy, which is what it's perpetual.
right.
Michigan gonna do what Michigan gonna do.
Right.
It could decide at 3 or 4 o'clock tomorrow to clear up, and we're super close to the path of totality. Like, because I think Cleveland is the closest to us, which is only like an hour and something. I mean, it's like 90 minutes. It's not far.
No, doesn't sound like
so
it. Yes.
You
probably have a better chance
from where we are in the mid-Atlantic here. We will see, or in the Midwest, excuse me. We will see it pretty good if we stare right into it. Oh no, wait! Don't stare right into it.
Yeah, please don't do that.
You know what?
Don't do that.
When I heard, this is so terrible and very like politically charged, but I don't give a crap because it's my show. The first thing when I heard again that we were having another solar eclipse, my first thought was, is Trump going to stare right into it again?
I hope so.
It's just like, wait, why did I think that? Why is that the first thing I think of? You should be like, ooh. Instead, you're like, are dummies going to like dummy?
Look at it? Yeah, probably.
Probably. Good odds, given what we've done.
Yeah, very good odds.
That's actually a pretty good segue to...
Yeah, I guess that is a good segue into Trump's friend.
Dummy's gonna dummy.
Dummy's gonna dummy and Trump's friend.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you know, they come from the same school of exploitation.
One WWE Hall of Fame member to the former owner of the WWE.
Exactly.
So Monday, Vince McMahon's people, or Vince McMahon himself, which at this point would not surprise me, somebody from his camp or himself, decided they were going to send a love letter to the New York Post, of all places, because if you're not familiar with the New York Post, they are a trashy tabloid, sleazy, Republican-leaning publication. Nobody takes Nobody take well, they're like a step above the Inquirer.
Well, no, like it's that one of the editors of the, and I was like, is it the Post or the Inquirer? And I think it's the Inquirer, but his last name is Pecker, and it's so appropriate.
I think that's the guy at the Inquirer.
Okay,
I think so.
I think you're right too, but. I mean, his last name is applicable to both of them.
It is. So. This is true. Yes. So the love letter itself, I did not read because I was like, I'm not reading this junk. But I did read the article. Some of my friends, I did have some people I know who read the letter, and I actually thought about going back, and then I got busy watching wrestling this week, and so
I let Dave read the letter for me, and I read the Observer report. I read story in the Observer about it.
I did see. As I was reading, like the letter is right there in the middle of the article, and you can see the very first line. This is the 24th draft.
Uh-huh.
You don't tell me this is not coerced?
You know, there's an overlying,
there.
like there's a macro thing that I think needs to be addressed here. So their statement from the jump has been that they deny all allegations of anything happening. There was no relationship. There was no any of these things that she alleges in the suit. There was nothing ever happened. The company is not liable. Vince isn't liable. She's lying. She's a lying liar.
Right.
Right. So why then? Because she's just a liar. So if she's a liar, then what do you care? You just argue your case in court, or do your whatever, or tell them that not, and argue it and get it thrown out, or whatever.
Yeah.
Why would you feel compelled to put this information into the public sphere? Any public, I don't care who it, forget that the source is questionable at best.
Right.
If I'm being whatever. But like, what? Let it play out in court. Why do you suddenly, in late March, right before Mania season, feel compelled
to Mania season and
out
he wants the attention?
Something that says, "Hey, but incidentally, she wrote him a love letter." What?
It makes no sense to me. Yeah, I don't. That's what I was like. I don't know why he thought this was him or his team thought this was helpful to him, because it just proves more coercion. It proves that, like, because it was like the 24th draft, which is right there in the front. And then like from what the article, so the Post actually did do a little pushback and was like, she quoted some stuff from MGK and Megan Fox, and I was like, did he remember MGK from being powerbombed through a table by Kevin Owens on his show? And so he remembers who MGK. And then there was a quote from
song lyrics that were
from the movie The Bishop's Wife. There were quotes from it. She lifted quotes from quite a few places all over the place. So. And she even, there was something about how, like, she injured her thumb and was like, and sent him a text and was like, I can't write your letter for you, or something like that. So I'm like, you're not proving anything. You are just proving more. If anything, you're helping her prove her case, that you coerced her into all kinds of acts, including a fake love letter. Like, it's
this is all, I mean, the good news here is that this is all, they can be as stupid as they want to be, because this is admissible in court. So if the judge allows this to go ahead, then Ann Callis, being the smart lawyer that she seems to be, will undoubtedly take this and go, hey guys, look what they did. I mean, so if they want to keep being dimwits about it and do this, while they're contending that none of this ever happened, except that John Laurinaitis says that he was also coerced.
Right.
I mean, it gets more paradoxical with every version. Like,
yeah, it really does. And then I want to go back to something Brad said, that when he was in the second grade, they had to do a current events weekly, and I still remember my teacher telling us to use the Post since it's written for people at our grade level.
That's hilarious. And Brad is from the region where the New York Post is coming out of. So
it's just, I don't know.
It isn't a real, I mean, it's like the Mirror in London or something. I mean, it's not a serious magazine. I say magazine. Trash. It's not a serious periodical. It's not something that's like, do yourself a favor, folks, and question your sources and make sure that, what you're reading.
Yeah, and I think he probably knows somebody at that publication and had them run it. But I was like, he's chose them because they're not going to give serious pushback. They're not going to they're going to make him look
probably a contributor. I mean, let's be real. These are all owned by somebody. He's probably a contributor. He's probably, I mean, it just seems weird. And like, I guess I shouldn't be surprised that the WWE or Vince McMahon or anybody, Vince, what it must be partially is that, like, he's bored and he knows he can't get back in and he needs attention. So he decided to do something like this Mania week
Nobody's
get
talking about him, so he had to make he had to
insert
put attention on
himself into
himself.
the thing.
Yeah, because
With,
he's such a he's that much of a narcissist that
but he did it by exploiting a woman who he's
continuously exploited.
Well, he's accused of doing like crimes against humanity against her and trafficking her, basically. Like, maybe don't use her as your vehicle to get attention in the media going in there. And then I don't know if you saw that, because like the dude wipes were all around the ring and all over the thing.
I saw your tweet
last night. Well,
Yeah.
I quote tweeted Lyric because she asked who
Yeah.
thought that was a good idea. And those ding dongs from that company, Dude Wipes, actually answered her, we thought it was a good idea.
Yeah, it's a terrible idea.
And I mean, I did bury them in my tweet because
You should.
They are man baby wipes.
They are.
They're literally, this is like they're for single dudes to wipe themselves off instead of taking a shower.
Right.
That's something they give you at hospitals and stuff to like wipe yourself down when you're like
they're terrible for the environment.
And thank you. And they're terrible for the environment.
They're terrible for the environment. All white.
But let's plaster dude everywhere this week.
Every single match last night was sponsored.
The mat was sponsored, Sam. The mat for the first time. And then I thought it was hilarious. It was like they bragged about it on commentary. I'm like, oh no, so my favorite though, I have to, this is again, because it's somewhat politically charged, but it's hilarious, is that they kept showing that stupid Wheatley vodka ad. And it was like, don't drink the Russian vodka, drink the American vodka. Why does America not get? And I was like, is anybody else seeing the massive like propaganda, like advertising campaign Wheatley is running right now? They're literally like, I know that all the right-wing nut jobs have gone out and like they're like rejecting Russian vodka because that makes any sense at all. But I'm like, they're literally running an ad campaign, and that's like, I'm like, oh my god, this is one of the demographic that
you have Dwayne going on. You have Dwayne going on Fox saying he's not going to support Biden because he doesn't like woke culture.
As soon as you say woke culture in the context that he used it in, you become a non-serious person to me.
Yeah,
it's the same as when you use canceled.
Even Cody called him out for it.
It's the same as when you use canceled in that context. You know what that tells me? What I'm happy about? It's a new era. You're right. The only thing that's good about those people saying those words in those contexts is that I'm always like, thank you for telling me who you are.
Yeah. Thanks for being upfront.
So that I can walk away and just, thank you. Cool. Have a great night. I'm out. Like, I don't, because I would love to be like, it's the quote is, I love humanity. It's humans I can't stand. That's, that's kind of where I am with like this whole situation is like, this is gross. And I watched and that made me feel gross, but it's mania and I watched the indie stuff too. I watched some of it. I mean, but there's an ongoing story that's like pervasive in wrestling that has a bigger sort of like, you almost have to pay attention. You don't, but you do. It's weird.
Sure. Well, and then one of the things that came out in this new Triple H era, because he came out and told you. Well, first of all, I didn't watch the pre-show, but apparently they had a segment where everybody talked about how great Triple H was. So apparently it was like propaganda to show you how great he is.
I think they did. I had it on.
And Michael Cole's talking about how he hired him and all this crap. And like they all were like taking turns, which is funny because there is a clip that was going around that got cut from like one of the pre-interviews they did. And it's Michael Cole saying Dick Rider. And I was like, just play that clip for the next 3 days because this is for the next 3 days. It's Michael Cole being a Dick Rider for 3 days, talking about how great And then, so in this new era where everything has changed, it came out last night that in the Scrum, which I didn't watch because I was writing an article and I had
Because you were
a little,
doing real journalism. Just
I was doing things. It came out that Brock Lesnar is still employed.
They were thinking about doing something with him even on this show.
John Alba made a typo and said that they were talking about bringing him in for WrestleMania. It was actually back when they were talking about bringing him in for Rumble. However, the most important part of that tweet was the latter half, which said he is still employed by WWE and he's just sitting at home. So he's sitting at home waiting for sex trafficking charges or allegations to
blow
go away, to blow over so that they could bring him back. And so,
so he can make 4 appearances a year and make $5 million per or more.
Yep. Yes. So,
Gross.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, I'm not surprised because I guess they have to wait till there's like actual charges or whatever. And I'm sure the FBI is on it.
I'm just so glad that there's alternatives. I've never been gladder. I mean, if it was just WWE, I wouldn't be watching wrestling at all.
Again, I'm only watching WWE
because you're getting paid to.
That's the only reason I watch
it. The only way I would ever do it.
The more I watch it, the more I realize how much it just is not for me anymore. I don't like the product itself. I don't care for. There's a few wrestlers that I like. I thought WrestleMania was just all right. There were some things that I really liked, and there were some things, but it's just. I just don't care for it the way that I used to. And a lot of it is because of all the stuff going on in the background. It's hard for me to separate those things. And
I have a baseline for you because
especially when you have Vince come out and publish this coerced love letter. Let me make sure that's really clear because it's not a love letter. It's coercion.
It's the quotes, even what Dave put in there are ridiculous. It was nonsense. It was.
I also want to just point out, I think we've made this abundantly clear, but in case it needs to be said again, we support Janel.
Yeah, we
support her. I hope that I know that she's had a really rough time. I'm sure this didn't help, even though it helps her more than she probably realizes. I'm sure it's embarrassing to have that put out. And for everybody to see, especially for people who already don't believe her, they probably some of this will look at it and be like, oh, then she really was in love with him. If you have reading comprehension skills, you will see that. No,
even if this is the thing. Here's again, I just to get factual, people. Even if you have a consensual relationship with somebody, that doesn't allow them to set you up across border and sell you off to somebody else. If my husband made a deal to take money for me to go have sex with somebody in Ohio, crazy and gross, ew.
Right.
That's trafficking.
Yes.
Whether we're married or not.
Yes, right.
That's called sex trafficking. So I don't care if it's consensual or not. You can't sign away your rights. You can't. That doesn't mean he can break federal law. Even if she was down with all of the horrible things. It's madness to imagine that a woman would put that amount of information out that's that horrible.
Yeah,
because she was wanting to get attention. You don't tell people the things that are in that lawsuit because you're that. I would never want anyone to know that kind of stuff. That's
you and I talked about that at the beginning of this. To even admit those things to herself that this is what happened,
let alone putting
then
it
admit
out
it to whoever else. Maybe she's close friends or something like that, and then to a point where you're going to a lawyer. And telling, and
knowing,
and then just having to repeat
judge you.
The story, right? Exactly. And this proves our point because Brad said he's already seen people saying that Janel rewrote the letter so many times because she wanted to get it perfect for Vince. So he's so anal about perfection.
Exactly. I've seen
Regardless,
that too, Brad.
It's still coerced. It's still coerced.
I've seen that too, and Sam's exactly right. What Sam just said is that's still coercion, even if she wanted to get it perfect. you're still.
And why was she wanting to get it perfect? Probably so she wouldn't be punished in some way.
Well, in their minds, they can make up this like consensual relationship that would allow. And again, most of the people I think that attack people that are defending Janelle have not even like peeped at the lawsuit. Like
Oh no.
I mean, everyone's an armchair analyst, but have you read it? Because if you have and you're out here telling me these things, you're gross.
Yeah.
You're gross. Sorry.
Sums it up.
If that's the hill you want to die on, stay as far the F away from me as possible, because I don't want anything to do with that hill.
Mm-mm.
Ew. You're gross.
Yeah. Yes, very much. It's just, yeah. Thank goodness New Japan exists, because goodness gracious.
Yes. It is a true alternative. There's New Japan. There's Noah. Noah had Minoru Suzuki, and for the love of me, Brad, help me out. Who did Minoru Suzuki wrestle on the Noah show? It was a gal. It was one of our gals. John reminded me to watch it. It's on my list of I need to get
with
caught
Maki
up.
Ito?
I think so. Was that right?
He wrestled Maki Ito at the Princess
recently, right?
Yeah, last week. Yeah, he
Okay.
wrestled Maki at the Princess
because he wrestled a woman on TJPW that was on Wrestle Universe too, that John recommended to me, and that I have to see.
That's what they both said. It
Yes,
was Maki
yes,
Ito.
okay.
Yeah, it is Maki Ito.
It was definitely the Maki
It was
Ito.
TJPW. Yeah, I saw Venkin says it was hilarious. I've seen clips
I
of
need
it.
to watch it.
I know who won, and then I saw like some pictures from it, and I saw the post-match interview that they did afterwards. I saw that too.
I need to catch up on that one. That's like
Maki. Speaking of, well, actually, both Maki and Suzuki were wrestling this weekend. Maki was on. She teamed up with Nick Gage against Danhausen, and
she wrestled
the person was Rom. No, what was her name? Rom something or other. I just blanked on her. I'm not very familiar with her, but the match was great. It was Danhausen was perfect for this situation. I'm glad that Danhausen has been doing some
which show was that
indie
on?
stuff. It was on Joey Janelle. It was It was Joey Janelle. Wait, no, that wasn't Joey Janelle Spring Break. That was a different one. Because Suzuki.
Why don't you ask me to recall everything?
Yeah, no, because on Spring Break it was Suzuki and Tanaka versus Masha, and was it Rena?
I think Brad has it.
But yes, Ram Kachow. That was or Ram. Maybe it's Ram Kachow. But yes, that was really fun. That was a really good one. Yeah, Suzuki was just like all over the place, and so it was fun to see that, and just to see him do that kind, like he just doesn't care, he'll just do whatever. And it was because it was funny because I got to watch Supercard live because I got to cover it. So I didn't have to watch SmackDown. Yay. So I watched live, but with Honor Club, it's on my laptop. And so on the TV, I put on Joey Janela's Spring Break. And so I was watching both. And so at the beginning, Spring Break opens with Suzuki's match, and then later on I'm watching Supercard, and somebody told Bullet Club Gold how to find Honor Club. They learned where it was at finally. They were like, oh wow, I know how to get there. Somebody gave me directions. And they randomly issued an open contract match, and it was answered by Lance Archer and Alex Zane, who are Monster Sauce. And then they were like, well, the ass boys are like, you have to have a third. There's 3 of us. And he's like, oh, I got you. And Suzuki comes out. So, because Suzuki and Lance Archer used to be in Suzuki-gun together.
Right.
So it was really funny. And then also Blake Christian was on 0 Hour, and he wrestled Black Taurus has a new name. He's the Beast Mortos is his new name, because he's not allowed to use Black Taurus anymore. But so Blake Christian wrestled on 0 Hour, and then he went to Spring Break and wrestled Joey Janela in the main event. So they him and Suzuki. So I was like, did they drop off Blake Christian and pick up Suzuki and bring him back?
I mean, it would save money, right?
It would. And so, but yeah, so Suzuki was all over. He was obviously on Bloodsport. So it was, I was glad to see so much. Hi, Hassan. That's that you are here. Yes, Billy Starks and the Queen Aminata was phenomenal. Like, I knew that they were gonna be good, but like they killed it. They were so good. And then there was like even with the I don't want to say questionable tactics, but the way that it went about with I'm gonna go ahead and tell you guys now. If you are watching this, you're gonna get spoiled just because.
Oh yes, this is a spoiler. Hey, I should throw up the graphic. This whole show should have had this from the beginning. Oh my gosh, there it is. This is for the whole show.
You're gonna get so many spoiler alerts from both indie shows, Supercard of Honor,
from anything that happened this weekend. If you have watched everything from Wednesday's Dynamite through Saturday night's first night of Mania,
or Saturday, or if you were like me and stayed up and watched the clusterfuck, then
it's everything and anything. It could be. I have not seen Sakura Genesis. Because I had all I barely finished. I finished Bloodsport because Bloodsport is my favorite thing about this time of year.
Yeah,
I'm such a nerd.
Even though I really like Bloodsport, but then I read a thread that had some questionable things about Josh Barnett. So,
well, this is my problem. See, because Josh Barnett has had questionable things about him in the past also. And so I'm on the fence. It's like I try to compartmentalize Josh Barnett as once a year he does something that we both are nerds about, which is shoot style wrestling. So for an hour, I just let it go. Or 2 hours, because it's usually only 2 hours. And
the show itself was great. His match was,
and I'm not really.
His match started out good. The ending was awful.
I'm only paying $8. The ending. Like, I'm paying $8. I'm going to cancel before the 7 days is up. And by the time he gets any of my money, it's going to be so incremental that, like, I think it's only once a year.
I'm paying for Triller Plus, so it's included. I didn't pay for that show.
Well, that's what I did. I signed up for, because I bought Bloodsport, which was essentially signing up for the 7-day free trial and paying for a month. So for $7.99, you get a 7-day free trial. And I do this. I did the same thing I did last year. Was I signed up for this, and it's just so happens that because I go looking for Bloodsport, and it's like sign up and do this, so I did it, and I get everything else. So
I subscribed to Triller Plus back when it was still Fight Plus, and it was when they first launched it at $4.99 a month, and so I got grandfathered in. So I paid $5 and watch. I pay $5 a month every month, and I use it at least once, pretty often, because I try to catch GCW shows, but I watch Wrestling Revolver a lot on there, and they just put House of Glory on there, and I need to go back and watch last month because last month has Alex Shelley versus Mustafa.
I think they come around here for some reason. I've seen them before. Like when you said that you were watching that show, I was like, why do I know these guys? Like what? I came across.
Yes, they did a crossover show on Friday. It was on at the same time as Progress, and I was like, nope, I'm watching Revolver. And it would show Revolver X House of Glory was really good. It
looked really good. I'm gonna go back. That's one that I'm actually gonna check out because when I saw you were watching it and I had signed up by then, I actually flicked it on and there wasn't a signal from the building. So
no, it was
like having signal drop out.
It was only 2 hours. I think it was only 6 matches, and it went by like really quick. And it was in this beautiful church, is where they had the match. And then the commentary, the audio on that was great. But then like Sam Laterna was the ring announcer, and you could not hear her. And then after, because the main event was Mustafa versus Amazing Red, which was incredible. And it ended up being for Amazing Red was like, well, if you think you can beat me, then put your TNA X Division title on the line. And Mustafa didn't like that, but he did put it on the line. And so after the match, like Mustafa was talking about Amazing Red and how like he watched a VHS of him in 1993 or something like that, but it was hard. The mic kept cutting out. You could hardly hear him, and so Amazing Red was like, "I just won't talk with a microphone," and so you could hear him more clearly, but he wasn't talking, and it wasn't very loud at least obviously on the audio. So I'm hoping somebody in the crowd recorded it so you could hear it, but that was a really great show. I loved that show. And that show had, it also had Masha versus Speedball, who have wrestled several times together. But it was funny because I was like, Masha and Speedball at a church. And Masha quote tweeted it and said something about how the wrestling gods approved of this, or I don't know. It was really funny what she said, but it was great. It was a really good show. I highly recommend going back. And
yeah, I'm gonna go back because, like I said, they were having signal troubles. I was like, okay, hopefully on the replay they'll be able to fix whatever it was, or I can fast forward through it.
So, yeah, it was cool. Yeah, and they had like a Philly street fight with Steve Macklin and why did I just blank on who it was? And they actually ended up in the street.
Watched like 3 billion hours of wrestling.
I have
actually. I mean, I have the exact
8 consecutive hours of wrestling yesterday, just between WrestleMania and the clusterfuck. 8 consecutive hours.
I did the numbers.
That included 3. That included 3 matches of Collision that I kind of watched. It was on, but I was writing an article and then I was trying to find out, because I usually do live Collision coverage, but because Collision was so late, they were like, don't worry about it. They were like, just help us with Mania stuff. And so but I was double checking. I was like, do you want me to watch do you want me to write the article on whoever wins the tag team tournament? And he's like, nah, I got it. He was like, nice. You can go. So that was like, so it was on, and then Pac wrestled for like 3 minutes. And so he wrestled an indie wrestler. And then STP versus Hook and Jericho was on, but I wasn't really paying attention. But I did see that they added Anthony Ogogo to Shane Taylor Promotions, which was really interesting. I did not see that coming. No. And I was like, well, I guess if they're doing it now and building up to Wembley, it's good timing. So
this is a good time to start.
Yeah. And I was like, and I saw Shane Taylor post something about how they have somebody, what was it, jiu-jitsu, MMA, and boxing, or jiu-jitsu, martial arts, and boxing. Like, so I guess each one of them brings something different to Shane Taylor Promotion. I was like, okay, that makes sense. I can see that. And obviously, if you watch this, you know that I love Shane Taylor and I love Lee Moriarty. So I was like, this should be interesting. So I did see some of that. So I've got to go back and watch that. I've got to watch Rampage. And no, Vinkin, I did not see Stand and Deliver. However, I did see that they showed a promo of Javon Evans, who is the former Jay Malachi, who I watched him wrestle for the first time when he was 15 years old. He wrestled here. He wrestled at PWX Pure a few times, and then DPW got hold of him. And he's 19 years old. This kid is insane. He and Lucky Ali both signed. Lucky Ali is somebody I've watched from around here as well. They both got signed to WWE at the same time. And also speaking of Lucky Ali, who is now Saquon Sugars is his WWE name. I don't know the extent of his injury, but he posted on Friday a picture of him in a hospital bed and a picture of an MRI, and it looks like he had some sort of surgery, which is terrible because he just debuted on NXT Level Up like 2 weeks ago, and I hate that for him. But Javon he's been getting so much praise on Level Up and back. I keep hearing that he gets a lot of praise like backstage. They're putting him in on NXT this Tuesday. He's been in the company for he's made that much of an impression that they're putting him on TV. And so I was like, I don't want to watch NXT, but I will watch this clip. That's I've been watching. I saw his first match on Level Up, and he's had 2 or 3 more, and I need to watch Saquon. It's gonna take a long time for me to not call him Lucky Ali. I was like, that's such a great name. I mean, I'm glad he owns it and that he went with a different name. So WWE did not trademark Lucky Ali, but I was like, it's gonna take me a long time to call him Saquon. but yes, I'm really excited about that. I did see that from Stand and Deliver. I did see that Julia was in the crowd, that they showed her in the audience, and I saw that they announced a new NXT. It's the NXT Women's North American title, I believe is what it's called. So they're getting a new belt. But NXT, from what I understand, they've actually been booking their women pretty well, as I keep hearing that they do a really good job with that. I did not see Ogogo's promo on Twitter, Hassan. I'll have to check that out because I'm sure it was really good. And Brad said, I like Ogogo being added, good use of him. Plus, it's pretty much ensures SCP is staying on TV. Thank goodness, because I love those dudes. Oh man, Hassan, that would be awesome.
God, I want Shelton Benjamin to join them too.
Man,
what I want Shelton Benjamin I watch him do anything. He can just come on AEW.
I feel like I know he would. I saw that at Wale Mania that the Hurt Business reunited, and so it was a picture of all of them on stage. And I feel like I saw Shelton he's on an indie, maybe Prestige. He's on an indie show coming up soon. I can't remember.
I hope so.
I know he's been doing some indie stuff.
Good.
So yes, Eddie, I did watch Supercard. I watched it live, and there was some stuff in the comments. I think that's where we started to go, and then we sidetracked.
We tangent.
Yeah, we tangent. Brad, I saw somebody else make that reference to that. How do I know who Julia is if they didn't air a video to explain who she was?
Brad, I can't tell you how many times I make jokes about people needing to make me a video package for that. Like that is a joke in my real life, even if people don't understand it. I just don't care. I will jokingly be like, I'm not sure how to pick out apples. I think someone needs to make a video package for me.
Please.
Please
show me.
I need them broken down for me. There's too many different types.
So many to choose from.
I can't just Google it. I'm not holding a phone or a device in my hand. The sum total of the world's knowledge at my fingertips. I need a video
in the world would I Google something when I can just when I can just demand a video package? Why would I just Google? Why I don't use Google?
I mean, I get what people are saying about story, but come on, you're literally like
you don't need your handheld.
Google it. Do you need to be spoon fed?
Yes.
It's bad for your neurons.
Because a certain company has made it that way.
I know,
but it's
bad for your brain. It's really bad for your brain. Your neurons stop moving around and reorganizing, and that's bad for you.
It is.
Because you stop learning. It's really bad for your brain.
It's not good.
Seriously, I'm not kidding. There's science behind this, folks.
No,
I'm telling you
this.
I'm telling people this because I care about them. Like thinking it's hard sometimes, but it's super good for your brain, and it keeps your brain from collapsing in on itself.
Yeah, we don't want that.
And we love
terrible.
You. So
we do love you.
Think for yourself. And
yes.
Question and look it up on Google. It's right there.
Yeah, that's literally. If you don't like Google, use Bing.
Or do what I love. My favorite thing, and people are in groups.
Use your Twitter search function.
There you go. That's exactly right. That's what
I do.
I went to Twitter to see if the earthquake was real, and that is totally reliable.
Totally.
Twitter is totally real life. We all know that.
Yeah, obviously.
So follow us at Powerbombshells.
Yes, you should.
I mean, you should do that anyway. But
right. So we were supposed to talk about the collective last, but did we just go ahead and talk to it now and just reshuffle?
We did kind of start talking about it, didn't we? Because we talked about.
Yeah, we can just stick with it. We can stick with it because we talked about. Yeah, we'll just shuffle our conversation around. It's fine. We got past all the crap of the shit sandwich part of the story. So
and I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited for one of those pointers because I want to hear your. I can't wait.
Oh well, I mean, we can go in order.
So let's finish up our collective talk because it like ROH and we talked about.
Yeah, so the collective. I started with Bloodsport. I forgot that Defy was starting off at 11 a.m. and I did not remember, and it was until like 11:30, and I was doing. I have to actually do my real day job stuff, and so I didn't get to Defy. But it is. I know. Imagine that. Oh, listen, I was mad because I was watching Bloodsport. Watching Speedball versus Nick Nemeth. I had to actually start out on my phone because Miley decided she had to go outside. I was like, fine, I will pull up Triller on my phone. And so I was watching it, came inside, was getting ready to go to go watch it, and my coworker calls, and I was like, "Are you kidding me? During Speedball and Nick Nemeth? How dare you bother me?"
Don't you
So
understand what is happening at this moment in
no,
time?
clearly not. He's not a wrestling fan. He doesn't like sports in
Jeez,
general.
God, do you
So
understand? First of all, Speedball.
right. Exactly. So I have to go back and rewatch. So I saw like a couple minutes. The match obviously was not very long to begin with because a lot of blood sport matches are not very long. And so I saw a part of it, and then I got back in there like right at the very end of it. So I have to go back and rewatch that. But yeah, so Defy is on my list. Unfortunately, did not get to Effie's Big Gay Brunch because I had to reschedule my tattoo appointment because it was originally the weekend that we found out that Sunny didn't have much time left. And I was like, what if she passes like Saturday morning? So I was like, let me just go ahead and move it. And I didn't think anything of it. They're like, we're going to do it April 6th at 11 a.m. Not a problem. And then a few days ago, and I'm like, oh my God, that's during Big Gay Brunch. And so I was gonna watch it when I got home, but I didn't sleep well yesterday. And so I was like, I have got to take a nap because I've got to watch. I've got to sit through WrestleMania and I've got to stay up for the clusterfuck. So I will have to get to Effie in the next couple of days. I will definitely watch it because I love Big Gay Brunch. So I will make sure that I get to it. And I heard it was really good. A friend of mine said it was great. But yeah, so I did watch. So Defy is on there, is on my list of things to get back to. Actually, I need to watch I heard the DDT show on Thursday was really good as well. I was watching Ring of Honor and covering that, so I didn't get to see DDT. I probably should just put DDT on the TV while I was doing that, but I heard DDT was great. I heard they had a really good show. I know Takeshita was there. I saw a couple of clips from the show, and so I'll have to make sure I see that. But yeah, I thought yeah, Brad says DDT was in fact awesome. Yes, that's what I kept hearing. So I'll make sure to add that to my list of things. And I don't have IWTV, and I think that's where the WrestleCon stuff was. And I keep hearing that Marcus Mathers versus Dragon Kid was really good. Like I kept seeing it in my timeline yesterday that people were talking about that was like one of the matches of the weekend. So I need to make sure I check that out. But yeah, I was like, I don't know if you should go over. There's so many shows. I was like, I don't know if people even care about the highlights, but Bloodsport was good. I enjoyed it from what I got to see of it. I will say the ending to the Josh Barnett Johnny Bloodsport match was not good. It got botched, and my editor from Daily TDT was there, and I messaged him, and I was like, because that was a show he was so excited for that show, and I messaged him, I said, did that ending look as bad there as it did on TV? And he was like, yeah, it was bad, and everybody was just like, he said the crowd was just like, kind of like, okay. it just kind of ended so flat, and it started out, and he was like, they should have ended it after Masha versus Shayna. He was like, that should have just been the end of the show. I was like, yeah, that should have been the main event. And Charlie Dempsey, that match was good. I haven't seen too much of Charlie Dempsey because he's in NXT and I don't watch it, but that is for those who are unfamiliar, that is William Regal's son. And he was unannounced. So we saw him. He came out at the beginning, and I was like, wait, did they announce him? And my editor was like, did they announce him? And I was like, no, I don't think so. I was like, I think he was a surprise. We knew multiple people from WWE were coming in, and it ended up just being him. They had a lot of WWE people came to support. My editor said he saw quite a few people. Jordan Grace was there, and then she ended up coming out with Masha because they're really good friends in real life. And then Zoe Stark, who is Shayna Baszler's tag team partner, she was there to support her. I think Braun Strowman was there. Nia was there. CM Punk was there. There's 2 or 3 other people. He said that the WWE people were hyping Shayna up while they were there, and he said that was kind of cool to see them like trying to hype her up for her match and stuff. But that was a really good match. I really enjoyed it. I thought Bloodsport overall I thought was a pretty good show, other than that not great ending. But hopefully when they get to Japan, it'll go a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like I've gotten to bits and pieces of everything. I'm not caught up because I've had life stuff going on. So it's just been
Sure,
like one
I
of those things where
understand
like
that.
I got to all of Mania yesterday. I got to like I've been watching a lot of like clips and like shortened
Yeah.
to sort of, and I've been reading people's catch ups and because I don't know, I've been reading a lot about like separate history stuff because of the stuff that's gone on with the um when all of this stuff with Vince broke, we had a conversation where Garrett pointed me to Irvin Muchnick, who is a writer, and he's
Mhm.
related to Sam Muchnick, the promoter,
Okay. Okay.
distantly, and also Phil Muchnick, the writer. So, but
Okay.
he's this like he has a blog, and he also put out this book back in the early aughts, I think was when it came out. That is a
Mhm.
fairly well-known book. It's called Wrestling Babylon, but it's kind of a
Uh-huh.
compilation of all these stories that he has brought out. He's covered Vince's shenanigans to undersell it
Yeah.
for a long time as a real reporter. But he has a really great narrative and he's funny as hell. Like, and I've been
That
reading
sounds
his
good.
book as
Uh-huh.
sort of like a sidebar to because Garrett said you should go check out his story on the Von Erichs because he exposed them years ago. And I was like, wait, what? And so that led me down a huge click hole with him. And I found that they had this book in my library cooperative. So I was like, I'm reading this.
Oh, nice.
And it's actually
That's
been like
cool.
a historically supplemental, like it's given me so much perspective on where like this Vince thing that went on even this week with the
Mhm.
letter. This is like from their playbook.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's weird. It's like I've been reading a lot and I've been watching a lot of like shortened things because my attention
Sure.
span
That's
has not
understandable.
been great. So,
That's understandable. And actually, as we were talking about this, I think I forgot to write this down. I meant to put this on our notes and I forgot. But since I remembered it, we're going to talk about Drew Gulak real quick.
okay. Yeah,
So
real quick.
Ronda
Cool.
Rousey was on News Nation on Monday night, I think it was. And News Nation has actually been one of the outlets who has stayed on top of the Janel Grant story. They have been really good about like they're one of the few mainstream media outlets that are covering it. And they've covered the stuff with Ashley Massaro as well. So Ronda Rousey was there, obviously promoting her book, but also talk about what she has seen with Vince. And she mentioned a situation with Drew Gulak. That she was she I don't remember, she was waiting in the hallway down at the performance center. She was going to talk to I think Triple H and Bruce Pritchard or something like that, and there's all these people around, and she said she said that at first she couldn't remember his name, and then it ended up being Drew Gulak. She said he came to shake her, or he just came up and he like untied the strings on her pants, and then he just like kept walking. Nobody seemed to care. Nobody, they just thought it was, she said they just acted like it was nothing abnormal, that this is something that you do. And it pissed her off. And she confronted Gulak about it. And she was like, what the fuck do you think you're doing? If my husband had been standing there, what would you have done? And if you're doing this in a room full of people, what are you doing when there's nobody around? And she said that her words were something about how he was just like, no, it's not how I meant it. And he apparently apologized to her. And so some people have wondered if maybe this was a rib where Drew Gulak was put up to this by somebody in the locker room, which certainly would track with some of the things we've heard
Yeah, but as
about.
if it matters.
No, and right, because but either regardless of whether because she clearly, regardless of the intent, if that were the case, she clearly didn't see it as a rib. She saw it as something uncomfortable, as being harassed in the workplace, which is completely understandable. And so this kind of just proves that point of the locker, just the environment that is in WWE and how far down it goes. And Drew Gulak is somebody, for the most part, who seems to have a good reputation. His brother was named in Speaking Out, and of course, not the same people, but that doesn't necessarily help his things. Then he put out a really shitty statement where he said, I think I screenshot it. Somebody went on Twitter because some people were like, did a lawyer write that? Or did, because this doesn't sound like a person wrote this.
Right.
But he says, let me see if I can find the screenshot. May not be able to find it right this second.
I wish that we could insert note shuffling. So I need to download.
Oh,
note
here it
shuffling
is.
sound
Yeah, he
for,
said right. He
the
said
Meltzer
backstage.
fans in the room.
He said backstage at a WWE event 2022, I saw Rhonda talking with a group of people in the hallway. I stopped to say hi and shake all their hands, and in an attempt to shake her hand, I accidentally touched her drawstring. Complete accident, and one that I had apologized to her for the mishap. Then he turned off the replies. So I don't know if this was actually Drew Gulak's words, if this was somebody in management that was like, let's put this out and turn it off. But when you turn off the replies, people quote tweet it, which just amplifies it even more than just replying to it. So it just is a very bad look. And of course, it got buried with everything else going on this week. And to the point where I forgot momentarily until you were talking about it. I was like, wait, we were going to talk about that. And so
I remember you. And what's funny about that is it's not like it's been a long week necessarily, but I remember now that you say it, I remember because I read your posting about it.
yes.
So
April, yeah, that because so it was April the 3rd. So because Monday night is when the show aired, and then he released he put out the tweet. I don't even want to say it's a statement because I don't know what that was.
Can we really call it a statement if it's on freaking Twitter? I mean, I know that people like the court of public opinion does do its convicting on that. I mean, that's true and that sucks, but at the same time, probably not the best way to
people
reply.
are trying to discredit it because it's Ronda Rousey, because she's a Sandy Hook truther, or she believes things that aren't true, I guess. And so they were trying to be like, well, then how can we believe her? Imperfect people can still be victims. People that you do not like can still be victims. They can still deal with not assault, but like harassment and all these different types of things. Like, just because they're not the model person or somebody that you like doesn't discredit them.
Well, your political beliefs not aligning doesn't allow somebody to just sexually harass somebody else. It's just not, those two things are not related.
Yeah, right.
Those two things are just separate. That's me being a sexual harasser has nothing to do whether I'm a Democrat or a Republican or an independent, or I don't practice politics at all. Like, it's irrelevant. Keep your hands to your freaking self.
Right. And I missed this quote, but I am not at all surprised, Hassan, that JR says that Rousey is a bitter woman who hates Vince. I'm telling you, JR does not want people paying attention to the things that he does and the things that he knows.
I just can't believe
he was Vince's right-hand man for how many decades and has seen who knows what. He's probably
but he also got buried by Vince and embarrassed. And
it goes back to what we've talked about before.
He got exploited and coerced too.
Yep. But but JR is not going to bite the hand that feeds him or fed him for so long.
That's trauma. That's like he's an abuse victim. He doesn't even realize it in a way. When you combine him losing his wife and that sort of mentality, I'm not a doctor, but
not good. So I won't really take anything he says with it. Just take it all with a grain of salt.
He's, I feel really bad for JR because he's been through, radiation therapy can really mess you up, and
it can. I have also heard some stories about JR, so I'm not, if these stories are true, I'm not super sympathetic for him either. So
it's the whole thing is stop defending this. There's nothing.
Yeah. Oh no, that's
just don't say anything at all. Literally the whole adage of if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything. This is one of those times where you should, it's not even about nice, it's just about humane. Just stop. Just please, because you're either on the side of rapists and sex trafficking predators, or you're on the side of not that.
Yeah. Right.
And I think that you basically tell me who you are when you tell me which one you're on the side of.
Yeah, right? But yes, so
But
I
thank
do.
you for that. Continue to make sure and just,
Yeah, we'll go back to the collective stuff. But yeah, I just when you said that, I was like, wait a minute, I forgot to put this in our
yeah,
notes, and
it
to
is a
talk
good
about this
point.
because, and it's and I was like,
Yes, and Eddie said it right. Yes, the culture.
the
It's
culture,
the culture.
yeah, so, yeah, it's still and the timing would probably, well, he says it's 2022, so I guess, but that's still not very long after Janel Grant was not there. So that shows you that culture
Pattern of behavior.
and was still there and in effect as soon as recent as 2022. Probably even later, but this is just an example of something that happened 2 years ago.
I mean, if the case goes forward, that's what they have to establish is a pattern, and you can establish a pattern going back to the 80s. So
yes, you can. Yep. And Grace says, how I know these full of shit. I've never accidentally undone someone's pants, right? Exactly. Exactly.
Crazy. And or gone to shake someone's hand and accidentally like untied.
Yeah, how does that?
Like the stories are very different. She says untied. He says accidentally. Like, so I just because the Bucks talked about it in their book is that it's pretty much practice to like if you're first time or whatever to go and shake everyone's hand and introduce yourself. Like that's backstage etiquette thing that wrestlers have. So it's a professional thing that they have. It's like an unspoken part of their code.
Sure.
I've never heard of anyone accidentally touching anybody's anything on those like recalls that Matt.
The only thing that I can think of is the times that we talked about Randy Orton when he was investigated a few years ago for putting his hands down his pants and making new people shake his hand or pulling
through the pants, right? And John Cena has a myriad of rumors behind him where like. I mean, even like John was telling me that the dude had like where he would make bets about getting with women to pop
I've heard some stories
stuff.
It's so gross. That's why some people it feels like that's why some people are defending Vince because they don't want Vince to be like, well, let me tell everybody about you.
I mean, at the end of the day, really, it's like when you are defending behavior like this, you're essentially saying that you want it to be permissible for you.
Yes.
Because nobody calls out. I mean, this goes for me too. I don't call out behavior I don't want to be accounted for. I'm human. I'm not afraid to admit it. There's been plenty of times when I like don't want someone to come back at me and say the same thing about, it's kind of human nature, but yeah, this is kind of gross. It's not kind of gross. Take the kind out of there. It's gross.
It is, it is gross. And it just perpetuates it. Like you said, it's a pattern.
But I mean, it works.
And a recent pattern.
The more that they do this stuff and it gets out, the more that Ian Callis has a case against WWE and Vince McMahon, and the better chance this has to going forward.
Yeah. I haven't had a chance.
And hopefully the feds have even more on him.
I hope so. I haven't had a chance to listen to the actual interview that John Pollock and Brandon Thurston did with her this week, but they wrote an article about it the next day that kind of highlighted some stuff, and it was about the letter.
I think that's what I read too.
She was pushing back against it, and Vince McMahon has hired a woman lawyer to. I was like, oh, I know what he's doing by hiring a woman. But then also that woman.
It's the same thing he's doing by sending Stephanie.
Right.
It's that same mentality.
Mm-hmm. And then this woman is taking.
It comes from a lady.
And then this woman is defending him and taking money in a paycheck. Yes, it does make her very gross because she's siding against a woman to make a paycheck and make a name for herself by associating herself with Vince, which is not a good idea. But who am I to say? I'm not.
Lawyer's gonna lawyer. I hate to say it, but lawyering is gender neutral. It's gross. I mean, I looked very, very closely at becoming one, so it's.
I will say that, and from what I have seen, Ann Callis seems to be the perfect person for Janel Grant to have hired. Because Ann Callis does not seem. She does not seem like somebody who will back down. She knows her shit, from what I can understand and what I've read about her background. She's very good at what she does, and she does not seem to be afraid of Vince McMahon or his lawyers or the WWE's lawyers. She seems to stand firm in whatever they throw at her. And
Her
so
background is crazy. She is like she knows what she's talking about. She knows the law. She worked in politics, not just in law, and like has served on bar councils, and she worked the Epstein case and got a bunch of justice for a bunch of the Epstein victims. And the Weinstein. Sorry.
Weinstein, yeah.
I got
too many trashy people.
I got my sex traffickers crossed.
It happens.
I got my predators crossed.
Got our predators crossed, yes. So so I wanted to bring that up, but we'll go back to this. But so the collective was fun. The wrestling has been fun. So I watched some ROH. What else did I watch? GCW and JCW versus the World was the match that was on Thursday at 11:59 p.m. That match, so like 1, maybe close to 2, Masha Slamovich wrestled Shuri. Is that right? It's Siri.
I think that's
I always mispronounce it every single time.
You had it right when you first said it. So
okay.
Don't question yourself.
Had a 30-minute time limit draw at like 1 o'clock in the morning. This is after Masha wrestled Shayna Baszler a few hours earlier. That match, that one of the top matches of the weekend was this 30-minute draw. Like, it was awesome. It was so good. And poor Miley. Like, I thought a few times they did like the New Japan stuff where you would think that somebody's going to win. It was some false finishes. Miley has to go to the bathroom. And I'm like, no, want to watch. It's probably going to end soon. False finish. She tries to go back in. I'm like, no, it's probably going to end soon. False finish. So, poor Miley had to. I know I probably could have paused it, but wanted to watch it in real time and not get spoiled. And so, because one of my friends was watching in Slack, so I was like, it would have come across my phone. And so, poor little Miley, she had to wait a half an hour for me to take her outside, which I gave her a treat for waiting for me.
Good girl.
She was a very good girl. But yeah, that match
she's a tough wrestling fan's dog.
Poor Miley. She sometimes will look at me like, are you really watching wrestling again?
These guys in tights again, Ma? What the F?
She's like, I don't want to do this.
Do you understand how much better going outside is than doing this?
Right. Exactly. That's definitely Miley's point of view for sure. But yeah, so there's I'm trying to think of, I probably should have wrote down some more stuff. Spring Break I watched. I want to go back and watch Mance versus Effie because they had an I Quit match and they've been feuding since December, and they've
forever. They've like been feuding.
Yeah, they've been having a really
like my timeline all the time.
Yeah, it's their feud has been great. Like I think this will probably end up being feud of the year for me, because I love both of those guys. Mance is a heel now. He's they both want to be GCW champion. Mance took Effie's spot. Effie was about to win this match to get to where he would be able to get a future opportunity at the title, and Mance at the last minute came in, turned on him, and took his spot. So they've been feuding ever since. Now he's feuding with everybody else in Second Gear Crew. Like he's had matches with Alley Catch, with Manders. He turned on Manders in Revolver Wrestling because they were still together. There, he's turned on him there. I have not got to see. Revolver had a show last week called Grit Your Teeth because Grizzled Young Veterans are the new tag team champions there. And I didn't get to see that show yet. And I think they had a steel cage match last week, Manders and Mance did. So now the story is kind of spilling across promotions, which is really cool. And so I watched the I Quit match, but it was during Queen Aminata and Billy Starks. And so I saw some of it, and then their match, like that match ended. And so I got to pay attention to the end of the I Quit match with them, but I really want to go back and watch it. Joey Janela versus Blake Christian was the main event. Missy Hyatt was with Joey Janela. She was the valet for it, which was really funny. And actually, early in Effie's career, Missy Hyatt was with Effie. She was his valet, like early in Effie's career. which is really funny. But yeah, that match was really good as well. And it went on. There was a lot of fast finishes, and Blake Christian retained the title. And then if you saw the BOSJ announcements, Blake Christian will be going to be in the BOSJ. So I don't know if he will still be champion by the time he gets there, or if they'll have him drop the GCW title before. But so that was a really good match. But I really enjoyed Spring Break is always one of my favorites to watch. There's always like really good stuff there. I did see For the Culture. It was also one of the shows that was on at 11:59, and so that's when I was writing my report of Supercard. And so for some of it, I just listened to commentary and would like look up when I can. I may go back and rewatch it where I can really watch it. But I did get to see Darius Carter versus Billy Dixon with Darius Lockhart as the referee. I got to watch that and like really pay attention. And there's definitely going to be something. Something's gonna happen at Ashe because of this. Yay. I can't figure out exactly what it is. I can't tell because unfortunately Darius Carter won this match and it pained Darius Lockhart to have to raise his hand. So I can't tell if they're gonna either do a rematch between Billy Dixon and Darius Carter at Ashe in 2 weeks, or if Billy is gonna be mad at Darius Lockhart for calling Carter as the winner, and it's going to set up Lockhart versus Billy Dixon. I can't tell what is going to happen here. However, there's some good stuff. But, and then I got to see Shug defended the Pan-African Diaspora World Championship against Alex Kane. That was a really good match as well, and Shug retained. And I did not hear the days. I have not heard how many days he is into his reign yet, and still very, very far away from Trisha's.
Very far,
very far.
That's
away.
a long reign.
It's got a long way to go. But yeah, so that was good. I think I may try to go back and rewatch some of the stuff that I missed. And Swole and AC Mac were on commentary, and they cracked me up the entire time. Like I was writing stuff and I would hear things and I would just start laughing. I was like, so it was good. And that it was, they had I really enjoyed that show. They had some really good stuff on there. And then of course there was Mania, and I saw somewhere in the comments, Jimmy, I think it was Vinkin, said that Jimmy and Jay Uso sucked. I did not care. I thought it was pretty, It was for me. I thought it was going to be more, and I was disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, it was way oversold and way under-delivered. Like,
yeah,
it was built up for such a long time, and then it was kind of like, I mean, I think I even saw people tweeting like, "Can this be over now?" Like,
yeah, that was one of the matches I was actually looking forward to. I thought it was going to be, because of the story they've been telling for so long, like I thought the match was going to be more than what it was. And I wouldn't say it sucked, but I was just kind of, and then the ending was abrupt, and it just, I didn't care for it.
It just wasn't that great. It was kind of,
yeah, I didn't, I'm so glad to see, Jade, Bianca, and Naomi looked phenomenal. They looked so good. I enjoyed their match. I thought it was good. I was glad to see Jade get the win. Jade looks fantastic. It was for what that match was, and just the three of them. I really like that they put them together. I think that was really smart.
Well, it was smart
of them. And like I thought they were probably, just seeing them probably was one of my favorite parts of the night. And then I was very excited that DIY got their first WrestleMania match. I still hate their music. It's terrible. Just like the new version of Rebel Heart is terrible. I hate it. That music sucks. They need better music. And then we got to see, and then like the tag match was insane, but it was fun. And then I just was disappointed that they put Waller and Theory have titles. I don't like either one of them. I was just like,
yeah.
And then I was like, and the fact that it was two separate winners, because everybody in my Slack was like, wait, I thought we were unifying the titles. Like, I didn't think there would be two separate winners. I'm happy for R-Truth. I love him. And so I'm not mad at R-Truth for having a title, because he beat the Judgment Day after they kicked him out. Or, well, they was never officially in it, but after they were so mean to him. And so he finally gets the last laugh. And then I popped so big. So did Nikki when we saw Xavier Woods in on the Consequences Creed gear, because when we watched TNA, that's where we first were introduced to him. He was Consequences Creed in TNA.
Oh.
We loved him. We were huge fans of him. And then he showed up in WWE and we were like, oh my God, that's Consequences Creed. And so when he came out with that gear, Nikki and I we popped for it. And then they had TNA social media was on top of it. They had a clip of him as Consequences Creed. They also had the clip of R-Truth when he won a title in TNA. They had a clip of that ready to go. So that was really cool to see. But yeah, I was really excited about seeing the Consequences Creed gear because I was like, oh my God, I was like, love Consequences Creed. So that was cool. I did not like the main event. I thought it was a waste of time. I felt like it was just, we technically already Monday night, they pretty much had a Bloodline Rules match. And then they set it up and then The Rock pretty much turned it into a Bloodline Rules match last night when he threatened the referee. And then tonight's going to be a Bloodline Rules match. Like 45 minutes to do that. Like, and it still pisses me off that Bayley and Io did not get the main event spot. They have said the last few years that the Rumble winners get the main event. And though Bayley got screwed out of it, so they didn't, and because they screwed up so bad trying to make it The Rock versus Roman Reigns instead of Cody. So they had to course correct, and they screwed Bayley and Io in the process. And they've like disrespected Bayley all along the way. Like they did and I've talked about it before, how they did the kickoff show in Vegas, and Bayley wasn't even on it, even though she had already said, I'm going to wrestle Io at WrestleMania.
What is their deal with Bayley right now?
They went with Becky. They went with Becky and Rhea. That match was not official because Becky had to win the Elimination Chamber later that month to get the Mania match. So, but they've just been pushing it. And though the women keep getting screwed, the women did not main event last year either. The women haven't main evented since Sasha and Bianca did. And I don't know that women are going to main event a WrestleMania anytime soon. And if your stipulation is the winner gets to go to Mania and gets the main event Mania, then that means both winners you have 2 nights.
Sasha versus Bianca has been since 2019, right?
Yeah, I think that was WrestleMania 37.
Okay.
I think.
Okay.
I think
because I was like, Ronda Rousey was
that.
35. That's why I'm making sure that you're right. Because if they haven't had one since 2019 and that was before that, then it's even worse.
I think it was WrestleMania 37. That was Bianca,
so that would be 2 years later. So that would be the 21 show.
So that's the last time women have main evented, and I don't see them having women main event anytime soon for Mania at least.
And so, but Bayley's on tonight's.
Bayley and Io are on tonight. Yes,
but
they are on tonight's card. They're not the main event because obviously.
Well, and I mean, we can basically. I mean, can we not infer from where we are going at this point that Cody is not finishing his story tonight?
That is my guess. I mean, on the one hand, they could just be doing it because they want him to have all these challenges that Cody has to overcome.
Yeah, I thought of that too.
I can't tell if that's what they're going if the only other I could see The Rock screwing Roman for accidentally spearing him yesterday, and that sets up The Rock and Roman Reigns for the Blood Money show.
Oh, fair. Which is good. It's perfect because that's right where they belong.
Yeah, it felt like it was just overbooked.
Well, I don't want to watch that main event anyway, so if they do it in Riyadh, then I don't have to worry or care. I mean, I wouldn't really watch it anyway, but you know what I'm saying. Like, if it's there, I definitely don't care.
No, I don't. I will not watch the Saudi show. Hopefully, I don't have to help cover it. Brad, I actually saw. I keep forgetting about Tama Tonga, and I saw somebody else mention this too. That Tama Tonga is probably going to debut tonight, and Roman will help Roman retain, which is certainly possible.
Oh, because
also the possibility of didn't they sign Zilla? Was it Zilla Fatu that they signed, or was it another member of the Bloodline
I don't think
family?
Jacob Fatu signed with them.
No, I don't think it's Jacob. I think it's Zilla.
Zilla.
No. Wait, is Zilla the one who re-signed with Reality of Wrestling so that he can? Because that's his path in is Booker T. After all the shit Booker T did, whatever. God, Venkin. Yeah, I've heard that too. That Priest cashes in. Hopefully, if he does cash in, hopefully he fails. If it's Cody, actually, I don't want him to have. I mean, if it's not Cody, then again, was he fired a second time? Because he was rehired right after the Rachel Rose story came out. Zilla Fatu re-signed with Reality of Wrestling like 2 weeks later and was talking about how something about mistakes were made and just basically kissing Booker T's ass, because it sounds like he was like, well, if I want to get into NXT, I got to go through Booker T. Booker T is my in to get here. But I don't know if he got fired again, but he did sign with them like right after the Rachel Rose stuff came out. But yeah, so that's Mania. At least I'm trying to think. I mean, Becky versus Rhea was solid. I guess maybe they're gonna have Liv be the one to dethrone Rhea, because in storyline, Rhea is the reason that Liv was out for so long last year. So I guess in storyline, maybe that's where they're going, is Liv is the one who dethrones her, which I would not be mad at. Yeah. Duncan says the same thing, that Liv should be the one. Seems like that's what they're doing since Rhea retained. I think that might be where they're going with that. Before I forget, Sami Zayn beating Gunther. That was a great match. I loved the pre-stuff. I got a little nervous when they showed Sammy's wife and kid, because they did that with Chad Gable. His daughter was ringside and he lost. So I thought that's where we were going. Then they show him walking down the hall and there's Kevin Owens. And I was like, that's what got me, was seeing Kevin Owens standing there and he hugs them. And I was like, oh God. So that was a really great match. And then he used a move that he hasn't used in WWE since he used it when the last time he used it was he was El Generico. And that's what he used, the Brain Buster off the turnbuckle, was that move he has not done. Since I thought that was really, really cool to see. And I also get a little tiny bit political. I wasn't sure if they were going to put the title on him because he openly supports Palestine. And I was a little concerned about that. I thought maybe they were going to be like, but they didn't. They had him win, and he won. And then somebody pointed out that last year he ended a record-breaking tag team run at WrestleMania, and this year he broke another record-winning run with Gunther in the Intercontinental Championship, which was really cool to see. And somebody else pointed out that this is the first that he did it both times. He did it during Ramadan, which they said was really cool to see him do. So I thought that was cool. And then because Mustafa has talked about wrestling obviously during Ramadan as well. Mustafa is also openly pro-Palestine as well. So I was really glad to see Sammy win. I thought that was a really nice moment. That was the nice Mania moment. Hopefully Kevin Owens can win tonight and finally beat Logan Paul in this dumb triple threat with Randy Orton. Just get the title off of him. And so that would be nice to have Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn be champions at the same time, even if it's not the tag team championship. So I'd like to see, hopefully we'll see that. Yes, let's see that he was champion for 666 days before he dropped that title. So yeah, do you have anything you want to add about Mania?
Not really. You kind of covered it. I loved the Sami Zayn match. That was my favorite. I'm me too. Muting because the next door neighbor's dog has decided to go on a barking spree.
Quite all right.
I mean, I'm stunned that my dogs are doing so awesome, but yeah, no, one thing I will say, I mean, I guess so that I do give credit where credit's due. The pacing of that show was way better than Mania's in the past to me. It felt
I would agree with that.
It was still 4.5 hours, almost 5 hours, but didn't feel quite so much as tedious as past Manias have.
I would agree.
The pacing was a little bit better than usual. So
yes,
because I didn't feel, because usually by the end I'm like, oh my God, just get it over with now. I'm I'm not looking forward to the end like I would necessarily with an AEW or a New Japan show. Like,
right. I will
I'm really
say
just
I
trying to
did
get to
read
bed.
John Pollock put out a tweet that the main event last night was the second longest WrestleMania main event since Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart in 1996.
Interesting.
I was like, if you're gonna go long, why didn't you do that with Roman and Cody?
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Yeah.
God. But then again, my friend said that's because they're gonna break it tonight. Please don't say that.
Oh dear God.
Please don't say that.
They like tricked us tonight, and it's gonna be like 3 a.m. for the.
Yeah.
Oh God, I'm sorry, Keelan.
Yeah, because they keep
Scott.
talking about.
I hope poor Keelan Scott don't have to go live at like 3:30 in the morning.
God, I know.
But if they do, subscribe.
Not
for
according to
YouTube
John
channel.
Pollock, it wasn't. John Pollock says it was not that. He said the only long one was Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels, unless he has revised that statement since last night. That was the tweet that I saw.
Well, I'm not gonna fact check it because I'm the worst person in the world to have fact checking that kind of thing.
Yeah, so we'll see. I guess tonight the only thing, like, I'm preparing for Cody to lose, just so I'm gonna keep my expectations low. It's gonna prepare for him to lose and be pissed off about it. Yeah. And then Io and Bailey should still be very good. It's a good story that they've been telling for a couple of years now, and it's finally getting some payoff. I do want to see. I just hope that Logan Paul loses regardless. I hope it's to KO more than Randy Orton. But as long as Logan Paul and his trash ass does not have it, and I'm glad that the Prime logo blended in with the mat and was not bright and distracting. So at least appreciated that last night.
But Sam, for the first time in the history of WrestleMania, they sponsored the mat. Yeah, we got to make sure we point that out on commentary, because that's what's important.
Also, they were a little. There was some questionable sponsorships because
you think
they had. I saw quite a few people. The match that had the 3 black women in it was sponsored by a wing company.
I know.
And I saw quite a few people bring that up. And also the match with all the Latino wrestlers was sponsored by Agua Fresca. However, that might have been a sponsorship request. Like they may have been like, hey, we're going to sponsor
the Latin
wrestlers.
Yeah. I mean,
it could have been just super tone deaf like the Wingstop match was. But it may have also been a brand. That might have been a brand thing that would be like, hey, we'll sponsor you if you put Hispanic wrestlers in this match. Like, it could have been a deal with that. But I did not care for every single match being sponsored, but I'm not surprised that was the case. Yeah. Not surprised that WWE did that, especially after they did the stuff with the cinnamon toast crunch last year.
Oh God, that was God. I put that.
Venkin, I did not see the Fallout logo. I don't think from Stand and Deliver. Was it bad? It sounds bad.
Uh-oh.
It sounds bad. Yeah. So we'll see how Mania goes. Actually, I don't know. I may be home in time for it to start. Today's my dad's birthday, and we are going to dinner.
Oh, good.
Later, we're going to go. Well, he wanted to do an early dinner, so we're going to go. But so I was like, I may be back by the time Mania starts, or I may end up missing a little bit and then just watching it as we go.
You could be okay.
I'll be fine. And so I did see, like I said, I saw a couple of matches from Collision. We'll get to that in a second, but afterwards, so the Clusterfuck Forever is something that Joey Janela has done a few times. So it was 2 matches, but they were real. So the first match was a Punjabi prison match that he did, like Great Khali did. And it was Violence is Forever, who are the tag team champions there. It was a pretty good match. I enjoyed it. I may go back and rewatch that because I was still writing when that started, and I was like at the end of my article and things like that. But from what I saw, it was really awesome. But then the Clusterfuck itself lived up to its name. There were 87 entrants this year. That's the longest they've had. And it was 2 hours long. That show ended at 3 a.m.
You are It's a good thing. Like, you're awake at night, I'm awake during the day, so we can cover everything all the time.
This is true.
We're perfect.
This is true.
We're like a great
I was
match.
like, thank goodness I took a nap, but I was starting to get tired. I was like, and I tweeted, I was like, how much longer is this? Then Joey Janela tweets that that Ubers are cheaper at 5 a.m. And so this was he was doing it for the wrestlers. And I was
He's
like,
not wrong. Everybody else is home right now. Like, everyone else is gone.
he was like, I'm thinking of the wrestlers. And then
the demand would be totally different. He's not wrong.
Yeah, it was just so like Shane Douglas was in this match. The first entrance was Jimmy Lloyd, who has turned heel and is now Broski Jimmy because he's aligned with Matt Cardona and Steph DeLander.
Oh,
so he comes out first and Shane Douglas eliminates him. And then Shane Douglas is in there for a while. And so they bring out some more ECW names, like Tommy Dreamer was in it. Justin Credible came out. I feel like there may have been somebody else from ECW that was there, but Shane Douglas was in it for a while. Then they brought in like the more regular talent was like throughout, and then just there was a stretch of wrestlers I'm not familiar with that were in there. And then I did get to see one of my favorite parts is because Nikki and I heard the music at the same time, and we were like, Nikki's like, are those Ugly Ducklings? And it was Rob Killjoy, who was in the Ugly Ducklings. They were a tag team. They wrestle up north more often, but they're from here. They wrestled from PWX forever. They're former tag team champions, and he was with White Mike, who was in PWX for a really long time too. And so the two of them together, and so they are the Ugly Sucklings, apparently. And so they were fun to see. It was really cool. I did not expect them, so I really enjoyed seeing them. Lindsay Snow was in it. Then let's see, Speedball was in it, and then he was eliminated almost immediately, which was but I think I'm almost positive. So later in the night, somebody came out. I forget the official name, but somebody came out in an inflatable chicken costume, and you could never really see them that well. But Nikki and I think that it was probably Speedball because it looked kind of like Speedball's haircut, and the person that was in it was probably about his height. So I guess that's why I got eliminated, because he came back in a chicken suit. And then Shitan was in it. I don't know if you've seen Shitan's the big.
The panda from
no,
Japanese?
Not a panda. This one is like, I don't know if she's a chipmunk or but she is from DDT Pro. And she's brown or like tan, and she wears a little hat. I'm
like vaguely aware of this. I've seen her,
yeah. And it's funny because before I get promoted Twitter ads from Chiton.
Okay, me too. That's where I've seen it. Thank you. That's it.
Yeah, so Chiton was in the match. And then so was the inflatable chicken. Then they had 3 people from Kaiju Big Battle came out.
And what's a cluster without a giant rubber chicken?
the chicken was pecking the Kaiju Big Battle characters.
Oh, God.
Great. Then Aja fucking Kong comes out in the middle of this.
Wow.
And they had Aja Kong versus Shitan. Phenomenal. I was like, I'm glad I stayed up for this. At
least they made it worth it. If you're going to be up that late, they better make it worth it.
And then the final entrant was Nick Gage. Oh. And it's funny because earlier in the night, Joey tweeted, and he's like, an actual text I got today, and Nick Gage texted him and said, hey, is there a spot in the clusterfuck? Because he wanted to be in it.
That's crazy.
And then, I should say, before Nick Gage came out, and I can't remember if it was before or after Aja Kong, Microman was in it. So the final 3 was Microman, Shitan, and Nick Gage. No, not Shitan. Shitan had been out. Yoshihiko was. Wow. Yes, the final 3, and it was entertaining as hell. Nick Gage was selling it, all of it. He was doing, he had the pizza cutter on Yoshihiko, threw Yoshihiko out into the audience. Like, he sold it perfectly. And then Microman won. It was amazing. I was so glad that I stayed up for it because
that's actually kind of funny.
Yeah,
I only know who he is because of MLW being on the
Microman has been in MLW.
I know he's been around forever, but
he's been in
seen
GC.
him.
Yeah, he's been in GCW recently. Like the last few months, they've brought him in, and he wrestles pretty often for them. And Microman was in. Is he in Joey Janela's Spring Break? Yeah, I think he was in the Scramble for Joey Janela's Spring Break, and he had a little like step stool, like a little 2-foot ladder that he took out everybody with. It was great.
That's
love Microman.
Too awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you got to lean into it, so why not?
They did, and they really did. And I was like, they got Aja Kong to lean into it some, which was great. Yes, the panda's name is Andreza Giant Panda. Yeah, I think that's correct too. Okay. And then yes, Brad, I did hear about this. He said, did you hear Lindsay Snow's the story of Lindsay Snow saving someone's life during one of her matches? She did a no ring death match, and someone was ODing, but she had Narcan to being due to a good friend being an addict. Yes, I did. I follow Lindsay on Twitter because Lindsay wrestled often in PWX. Sometimes they would have one whole women's match on PWX, and it was usually Lindsay Snow versus Savannah. And so Lindsay said that she was like she mentioned some dude having needles that she had to like take them from him or something, and then this person like she's like, I'm from Florida, so I can tell when somebody is ODing, and so I gave them Narcan, and somebody replied to her and was like, yeah, that person was dead in my arms until you
saved their life.
Yeah, which is insane because I heard later it was a Circle 6 match. And it was like at a skate park or something like that. And
that's so unfortunate.
Very unfortunate.
I'm very grateful that, not that
at these shows, they all, not just the wrestlers, but like whoever is putting on these shows should probably just keep Narcan on hand, because you never know.
Certainly in big cities for indie shows, I'd have it in my first aid kit. I'd have an AED.
Yeah, I would. You can buy it over the counter at the grocery. Like the Harris Teeter here, the grocery store here, and their pharmacy sells Narcan over the counter for $50.
Yeah, they're trying to limit it all over the country because they're jerks, but it's like everyone's fighting. The smart health people are fighting it, like healthcare professionals.
And I have a friend, and I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, you can get it here too.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think she carries Narcan on her for those. She was like, you just need to know how to administer Narcan. She was like, it could save somebody's life.
Yeah, it's like, I had to do first aid because working with kids and stuff. So we learned a bunch of that. And it was like also the AED, which, they're like $1,000 and you can save people's lives. Like, I know it seems like a lot, but for something like that, it's not. That's not nothing when you consider like what the price of it actually is. And
yeah,
those are the kinds of things that, like, as someone who, when I was like the camp director and stuff, I was the one carrying EpiPens and emergency medicines in case, because we were out on it, because someone had to meet, the kids had to have their stuff in case something went wrong. So
right.
I get it. Like, it's something I can like sympathize with, but it's just
I thank goodness Lindsay had it. But after that, I think that's proof right there that every promoter should have Narcan on hand.
It's really sad.
And they should have somebody on hand who knows how to use it. Whether that be for a talent, somebody working on the show, or somebody in the crowd.
Because you can't always have ambulances and stuff because they're so expensive.
Yeah.
For indie shows, but you can have a responsible first aid approach that could at least help.
I think
it's possible to put together a kit for yourself in a situation like that can really help you and your wrestlers and the people that are attending your shows. So
right, excuse me, exactly.
Plus, it limits your liability at the end of the day because you had the
that's
stuff available. So
right, yeah, that's always that's
you might even get a break on your insurance.
It's possible.
Tips and tricks by a not fidelity expert in any way or favor. I am not a financial advisor, and I do not give financial advice.
No, me neither. Nikki said that Clusterfuck was so awesome, very worth watching. Yeah, I enjoyed
right
it.
On.
I think the 2 hours it went by pretty fast.
That sounds like something
I started getting tired, and I was like, I'm sleepy, please. But then it was worth it because then it started picking up again. And I was like, okay, this is amazing. And I'm glad I stayed up and watched it.
I feel like sometimes you just need a bunch of nonsense wrestling because it's like it's like with like talking Shopomania or something. It's
yes.
There's like it's that side of the thing that is not for everyone, but also exists in that space, and it fulfills that sort of like fun, ridiculous. Like that sounds actually like I honestly right now like on my list almost want to just go watch that because I just feel like that would be relaxing and hilarious. Like
it was. It was really
the nonsense wrestling is awesome.
It was a perfect thing to watch after Mania too because it was just a whole like the Punjabi prison match was entertaining as hell, and then just to have this clusterfuck, and it's always fun to see who's gonna be in it. Just to see like who shows up because like Joey announced like. He announced, I think it was Thursday, every hour he announced like 4 talents, but when you have 87 people in it, you can't announce all 87. So like,
does the money go to something, or is it just like
I don't I mean, I assume he just pays the talent.
Pays everybody out.
Yeah,
I'm gonna split $500 87 ways.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Oh, and Mercedes Martinez ended up being in it because she's getting inducted into the Independent Wrestling Hall of Fame today. So shout out to Mercedes Martinez for getting her flowers. But yeah, she was in it against Jamie Senegal was in it. Sawyer wrecking her broken hand was in it. And yeah, it was funny because One Called Manders is her real life partner. And they were in the match together. And then Casey Catal and Brandon? Why did I just blanked on his name? Why did I just blank on it? Brandon Kirk. They were in it. And so they eliminated their partners together and then left with each other, which was really funny. So it was really entertaining. Nikki said, I wheezed when the chicken pecked someone from Kaiju Big Battle.
Saw her say that. She popped me. I was like,
that's really funny. Oh, you know what? I forgot. Brad said the Hall of Fame is over. It started at noon. And Steve Carino was getting inducted by Colby. And I saw that. And then I think they did 5 people this year. But I'm glad that they are doing the Indie Hall of Fame because it's a cool thing to see, and they should have.
I think it's fun that they do that just on the shows because it's like throughout it's kind of, I really enjoy the fact, and I'm glad that like you turned me on to it, that there's like all this stuff that popped up around Mania because it kind of makes, I mean, Mania is great and it is like the Super Bowl of wrestling and all of those things and culturally and all the things that everyone's written, but this other stuff that's gone on around it has really helped wrestling. Like a lot of the people,
it's making people they're getting money. They're getting
noticed.
Some people are getting signed off of it. Like Indy Hartwell was talking about how like she wrestled WrestleMania weekend in 2018 or something. And then she got a text from William Regal later and was like, let's touch base in a few months. And now she's in WWE. And so some people are getting signed off of this stuff, which is really cool to see.
It's really smart. You start like late after, or you start midday Thursday and kind of go through to Mania on Saturday, and it makes people come into the cities earlier. It makes people spend more money locally. Like it just, I mean,
and now they close out.
Like we've got the NFL draft coming, and they've got all kinds of stuff going on. It would be great to host something like that because all the local businesses and all these things that are available to people are really cool,
and I think. I didn't get to watch the Ring of Honor scrum because I was writing and because I watched what was I watching? The JCW show is what I was watching, and so I didn't watch the scrum. But I think somebody asked about like if All In and Wembley will have kind of something similar because they worked with Progress and they worked with
Rad Pro.
Ref Pro. And so they did that, but I guess they were wondering if like other indies would take the initiative to kind of do a mini version of what we see this weekend and do it around Wembley, which I think is really smart for them to do. And I'm glad that they got involved with Progress and Rev Pro, and I hope other indies will take initiative and schedule stuff around that time and, you know, promote their stuff. And that
we've been talking about that in the Discord a little bit too, because in one of the channels we were having that, because I was like, Wembley has like they have like an exhibition hall attached to it, and you can like say you played Wembley even though it wasn't the stadium. Right. It's the Wembley Exhibition Center. I mean,
right, exactly.
I don't know about your local stadiums, but our local, like out in Seattle especially, they had like the Expo Center that was attached to the big stadium where they did all kinds
we've
of
got
an
Expo Center across from the Bojangles Arena, which Bojangles used to be the big arena before Spectrum came along, and like and so they had the expo right, like literally like across the street, like you just they're on the same side of the street. There's a street in between them that it's right there, so I guess it's kind of the same type of deal. Well, that's unfortunate to hear that apparently Sabu
actually, you know what, that's classic Sabu right there.
That is true. It's ECW weekend on top of that.
Well, no, it all makes sense. That's a perfect thing that's like straight Sabu right there.
Yeah, it is.
I'm gonna no show and get paid.
People, yeah,
he knows what
so these people will never go into the prestigious WWE Hall of Fame. It's good that someone can give these talents their flowers.
Correct.
Yes, agreed. And I'm really happy to see Mercedes get that, because she definitely deserves to be recognized, because she's been doing it for a very long time, and she's one of the trailblazers, and she's killing it still in. When they do bring her into Ring of Honor,
when they do bring her in, she comes to play.
When they do bring her in, she's really great. So, I guess let's see. We've got a few more things to talk about. So also on Monday, Tony Khan decided that it was time to start releasing some people. They released people for the first time in their 5-year history in mass. It was still only 10 people, so it wasn't a huge number. However, it is 10 people who no longer have jobs, which is always a sad thing in wrestling. And of course, cuts are going to happen. It's just the nature of the business. Like, I totally get that. And of course and I don't necessarily think it had anything to do with the 3 big names they just brought in, because a lot of them were lower tier wrestlers, so I don't know that they were making a whole lot of money to begin with. I know for sure Slim J wasn't, because Slim J straight up said, I need a second job now because I'm broke as shit and I can't afford to get my wife and child out of the shithole we live in, which was really sad to see. And Slim J is also, he's been around, he was a former PWX champion for a while. He's been around here, and I've heard nothing but great things with him. I never really interacted with him that much. I was always entertained by him, but that was a sad, sobering thing to see. And then they released, and then I was surprised. I think Dasha, I was kind of surprised about, because they use Dasha pretty regularly, so that was surprising. And then at the time they released the boys, which seemed very questionable, because they are a part of this really big story that's happening in Ring of Honor between Dalton Castle and Johnny TV. Dalton Castle lost the boys to Johnny TV and Taya Valkyrie a few weeks beforehand. They were going to have a match on Friday. It was a fight without honor match. And on Monday, the boys were part of the releases. And then since then, it's gotten a little messy, because on the media call, someone asked, why would you release the boys when they're part of this storyline? And, why would you seemingly release them? And then Tony was like, well, I'm going to be honest with you. They no-showed a couple times, and you can't do that. So then the Tate twins were like, hold on a minute. It's not what happened. So then their side of the story is that there was some travel miscommunication. They normally fly out of Knoxville. They were scheduled to fly out of Nashville, which is 3 hours away from them. They said, hey, we've never flown out of Nashville before. Like, why would you do that? Like, our cars aren't good. Can we fly out of Knoxville? And somebody's like, well, contact this person. They contacted this person. Apparently there's just more miscommunication. So they did not make their booking in Canada. And they were like, well, why didn't you rent a car? And they were like, well, you would have been reimbursed for it. And they were like, well, we've been told we have to get permission to rent a car. So there's all this one side. I mean, not one
they
side.
had actually, from what I understood, even put in a request and were waiting for the request to be approved for the car.
From what the stuff that appeared
from their screenshots that they had in their
and then I saw an article earlier today that apparently Tony was asked about it at the scrum, and he didn't get to read the results. But read their statement because it was during he was doing stuff for the show, and somebody told him briefly about it, and he said that there was more than just that one time, and before he purchased ROH, there were some of those same issues with them supposedly no showing under the Sinclair era. He personally likes both of them. He thought he brought them back because he liked them with Dalton Castle. But then the no-show, I guess, because he says that they had a pattern of no showing, then they did it under him, and then he was just like, okay, so this is just the thing they do, and he just was like, but then he apparently said there's a possibility of them coming back, but they kind of shaded Dalton Castle, like before they released their statement. They retweeted someone who said that Dalton Castle is limited, which clearly tells me that you do not watch the product if you think that about Dalton Castle, especially he's doing some of the best character work he's ever done in his career right now. So I don't know that throwing Dalton Castle under the bus was very smart, because I couldn't completely make out what Dalton said when he was walking on Friday night, because he always talks to the camera, but obviously commentary talks as well. But in the show's lore, I guess, Johnny and Taya told him the boys got eaten by bears.
Nice.
So this is the story. This is the story they got told last week.
Why not?
So he made a comment into the camera about, can't remember the exact line, but he made a reference to them being eaten by bears, but how he'll survive, and because he's like, I don't know, he kind of took a shot at them. So he clearly saw whatever it was they were saying. So I don't know. It was just a little messy.
That was pretty messy
from both sides. Would not be the first time that AEW has had a lot of miscommunication with talent. We've heard that several times before, especially when it comes to contracts. I mean, Joey Janela is one of those people that will tell you they just didn't call him, and he doesn't know that they even knew that his there's been several wrestlers who have said, there was just communication's terrible. So it was an unfortunate situation. And Brad says they left the original ROH on bad terms and worked for OVW for 2 years before Tony brought them in. And Dalton is one of the most beloved people in the ROH locker room. Correct. I have always heard that as well. So yeah, I don't know it sounds like they burned some bridges with that. But then one of the other really big surprise cuts was Anthony Henry, because Anthony Henry is out with a broken jaw and just had a procedure 3 weeks ago. And so everybody was like, what the hell? And if he had not been injured, the Workhorsemen were supposed to have been in the AEW tournament, which was ongoing up until last night. So had he not been injured, would they have fired him? Like, this did not make any sense. And especially because Tony has talked about how much he loves the Workhorsemen. So it just was very odd, but he got a lot of blowback for firing somebody who's injured, and rightfully so. And it's not just because I know Anthony Henry and have known him for a long time. I would be mad about that regardless. It pissed me off even more because I've known Anthony for a very long time. I've watched his career and I know how hard he works. And not that these other people who release don't work hard, because I know that they do. But it was just, it made no sense to me whatsoever. And especially when somebody is injured and had a procedure, cannot wrestle for, I think it was 8 weeks total or something like that. So on the media call Thursday, somebody asked him, why did you fire somebody who's injured? Like, what are you thinking? So he's like, well, I thought about it and I'm bringing Anthony Henry back. What? I gasped. I was like, oh my God. I was like, what happened? And so he was just like, it sounds like he made it. I can't tell. I think part of it was he knows that he fucked up because he's injured. And he saw a lot of people were like, I hope you don't retire. Go to Japan. Go wrestle here. Go wrestle there. Other wrestlers were like, please don't retire. I want to wrestle you. Please. Like, and so I don't know if that kind of fed into it too, was Tony was like, wow, he's in demand and I screwed up here. And he said on the call, he was like, I love the workhorsemen, and we made the decision to bring Anthony back. And then he said a few minutes later, he was like, Anthony Henry is coming back. And so talking to so I sent the tweet to the group chat and I'm still trying to listen. And so I saw later on that as somebody asked Anthony, he was like, did you find out when we did? And he said, no, he got a call prior to that. I don't know when. He didn't go into detail. So I don't know if it was prior to this call, if it was couple the day before. He didn't say. So he will be, they said the one thing that was kind of interesting is they said that he will bring him back when he's healed up. So people are like, so is he out of work, injured for the next few weeks and not getting a paycheck? Because that's the way it's worded. So are you bringing him back and like giving him back pay, or like what's going on here? So that I have not heard any clarification on, but very glad that he is back, but was very angry at Tony for I was like, I just cutting somebody while they're injured is just shitty, regardless of who that person is.
I was too, and I know that the argument was that he was injured on a show that was not an AEW show. That was put out into the conversation. He was actually injured on a show that was an indie show, and so a lot of people
and he said there was some. He said that was a great, in the call, he said, well, getting her on an indie show is a great area. However, he was injured by another contracted AEW wrestler.
Well, and I would also I guess my question is but if he was injured on an AEW show, would you have kept him or would you have cut him?
Right. And so then that was my question too. Well, kind of along the same lines. Like,
you sort of have to ask that question if you're going to make that intention,
you're right.
Because you could put your foot down and say no one can from now on, no one's wrestling on any other, and you've even done things where you've pulled people like John Moxley off of shows before.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna let your wrestlers wrestle other shows, you can't have weird ambiguous stipulations for some wrestlers, but not. And I know, obviously, believe me, I played sports. I know how the hierarchy works.
Sure.
The better players get the better treatment.
Of
Dave
course,
says it every week. If he had been Dwayne can do whatever he wants, but it's kind of impertinent.
If he was a huge name that was featured regularly, this would have never have happened.
Oh, it wouldn't have been an issue
because he's a lower tier
MJF
wrestler.
Is still employed, isn't he?
Yes.
So
as far as we know, he's still employed, even though he's supposedly, a free agent or whatever shit. He might. Some people think he's going to show up at WrestleMania tonight. Good luck with that, because I don't think that's happening.
If that's happening,
I'm still convinced that he re-signed with AEW when he came back. First time.
I agree with you. I think you and I have been on the record 100 times agreeing. That when all the shenanigans in Vegas happened 2 years ago, that
we think as soon as he came back, they signed him to a long-term deal. But so that's why, because I was like, well, if he had been in the tournament and not been injured and clearly have still been competing in a tournament, would they have fired him? It doesn't make any sense. And he never really answered that for sure. I did ask how many contracted wrestlers there are between AEW and Ring of Honor, and are they still on the tiered contracts? Because when AEW first started, there were obviously the people who got the all elite graphic. Those are the ones who probably make more money for most of them. And then there's the lower tiered, and they were I think they were considered 0 tier was the information. And so it sounds like he didn't answer really, he didn't really say, he didn't give me a number, which I didn't think he would, but he did say that some people are paid on a weekly basis, depending on they're just brought in per a per appearance deal type of thing, which I know he was doing with the Dark and Elevation talent when they were there. And I believe initially, because JD Drake was there first because he was part of the wingmen, so I think he at some point was on like either a per appearance deal or maybe a lower contract. And then when they brought Anthony in, they were like bumped up a little bit and they were signed to, I don't know. I didn't ask them the details. It's not my business. So I don't know how, exactly how that works with them. So a lot of the people who were released, I think, were on the back end of that stuff, like the lower tiered stuff. And somebody was like, well, what if they cut all these people to bring in Motor City Machine Guns? I'm like, these people weren't making enough.
They weren't making enough money for that to make.
You have Slim J going on Twitter saying, I got to get a second job now because I can't afford.
Dave flat out said in his article about this that these people were not collectively making enough money for it to offset. It's a lot of people that they weren't using, and they do need to trim.
Well, but then
because they of whatever,
but they did release people they were using, which was like, that's what was confusing about it. They were using Anthony
but even
Henry.
He said that he was confused because usually Tony says if he signs you to the 3-year deal, he's going to keep you for the 3 years, and some of these people fell into that category, and so he was confused there. And I'm like, that's fair.
Yeah, that's what somebody was like. You said that you were going to honor people's contracts instead of like releasing them. So why did you? And like there was the Parker Boudreaux situation where he over the weekend signed, showed up in AAA in Mexico and said that he had permission from Tony to be there, but then he said, this is my new home. And then so when they started making cuts, I was like, oh, I bet, I'm guessing Parker, and he was the second one. Stu Grayson was the first one who was named, which Stu Grayson was an interesting situation because he left in 2022 when they couldn't come to a deal on their contract. He was brought back last March for was supposed to be a one-off thing. I guess he got so much of a reaction that Tony hired him back. He was an ROH for a little bit where he didn't like the Dark Order telling him what to do, and so he sided with the Righteous. They wrestled for a while. Then they had a match at Death Before Dishonor, and Stu Grayson hasn't been. That was the last time he's worked for ROH, so he hasn't worked for ROH or AEW since last summer. And there were some rumors going around about him. And then Stu was like, but the account that I saw it from, it was like kind of one of those anonymous accounts. I took it with a grain of salt. And then Stu said yesterday, I think it was like, whatever you've heard about me regarding this isn't true. That's not the full story. And so, yeah, it was, I guess I wasn't necessarily surprised. I mean, I was surprised because they just brought him back. But on the other hand, when I went and looked, I was like, well, he hasn't wrestled for them since last summer. Right. So, I guess I'm not completely surprised that they cut him, but it was just interesting. And I wouldn't be surprised if more cuts come, just because, especially if they end up signing a big deal with, well,
they have to Warner clean Brothers. House a little bit financially because they are in a contract year. So they are not, like, their numbers aren't as good as they should be year over year. I mean, they're fine, but their numbers aren't as good as they should be year over year, even with the losses in cable households for the last few little whiles. And I don't know, I think it's going to take some time, but nobody has any patience anymore because, like, the whole wide world of cable and all of these streaming things is changing really fast. Yeah. So, but I mean, I think he has to do some cutting and has to make it look at least fiscally responsible because he's going to need to sign a deal.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
I don't necessarily agree with the way he went about it. That's not excusing
it. And to come out on April Fool's Day is not like a
that was a little.
But I mean, I think it was more of it's the end of the first quarter, type of thing. Like I'm sure that's the actual timing, just optically cutting people on
Tuesday.
Cutting people on April Fool's Day is not necessarily a great look, and I do expect there to be more cuts. Hopefully, it'll just be interesting how that goes. But I do see, I mean, even still, and like I said, it was only 10 people. It's not like when WWE was cutting like 30 people at a time, which regardless of the number, these are still people losing their livelihood. And as Sonny Kiss said, sometimes it's your dream job that you're losing, and that's a tough pill to swallow. Yep. And so, I hope the rest of them land on their feet. And I was surprised, like Jose, the assistant, was pretty involved in some, with his faction, and then also just behind the scenes, it sounds like. So I I won't be surprised if because I think somebody asked if we were done for this round, and I don't remember if Tony answered that part of the question. I don't know that, not necessarily that it was on purpose, just because Tony tends to do that. He will find one part of the question, and that's kind of, then he just goes off because he was talking to me and then started talking about how it was snowing, and I was like, what does this have to do with my question? And I was just like, okay. I mean, he answered my question, but then he just was off on this whole other, like, this is kind of what he does. So, and then can put, I believe this is the tweet from Stu Grayson where he said, whatever it is you read online about me and the recent situation, just know that it is not true. Just people spreading rumors and making things up. Yeah.
Thanks, Megan.
So, yeah, because there was a really interesting rumor about him saying that they called him and wanted him to be booked in Canada, but he told them that he had dinner plans and it was too last minute and would not cancel them. And he was not and Evil Uno was on that show, and Evil Uno did something for ROH and had to be saved he was getting beat up, and people were chanting from Stu for Stu because Stu was from that area, and Stu didn't come out there. Adam Copeland did. And so I guess that kind of fed into the rumor, and they were like, well, if he was supposed to be at this show and we thought he was coming out and he didn't, I think that kind of fed into the rumor it was just, but at least from what I saw, the rumor could have come from elsewhere. The rumor I saw came from some anonymous account that I've never heard of before. And I asked around, I asked some people, like, have you heard of this account before? And they were like, I don't know what that is. Like, they were like, I don't know who's behind it. They claim they've been in the business for 20 years, and I don't maybe they are, but you never know. And so, but like, I asked a couple people and they're like, I have no idea who this account is. I've never even heard of it. And so, yeah, Nikki said that Tony, he taught it back to what I asked, but I was like, Tony, what? Yeah. Cause he veered way off.
He does that.
Like,
he does have a tendency.
Sometimes.
He's very political in the way that he hones in on like the part of your question he wants to answer and avoids the entire rest of it.
Yeah. He's done that to me more than once.
Oh my gosh, he does it to you.
Has anything to do with women's wrestling, typically.
Oh, he does it to you a lot. Only because I obviously pay attention and I hear your things because I hear your voice. But when you're tweeting the scrums, you're asked, like, this person asked this and this person asked him. But even the like ones that you asked him recently that we played on the show, I don't know, man. He's true politician. Like, I give him credit for knowing how to answer politically, but he does the politician thing where they hone in on the piece that they're willing to answer. And then they do this like flowery circle around it. And they're like, next.
Yes.
And, in real reporting.
And then he says, thanks for asking.
In real reporting, your colleague would follow up and be like, can you answer Sam's question in their way? But it doesn't happen anymore the way it used to because of the way that media has changed. So,
yeah. And these media calls are kind of interesting because we're not in the same room with each other, and they also they mute your mic. Like, as soon as you answer the question, because they obviously don't want background stuff, but like as soon as you ask, they mute it on their end.
That's
so
dumb.
You can't. So if I wanted,
you can't follow up or do anything. It's not even like a real media scrum.
Yeah, it's push. Yeah, so like if it was in person, like even if I'd given the
follow
microphone
up,
or I could if I had given the microphone back, I could be like, bring that back over here, or I could just talk.
Or you could have follow up. You can make a follow up attempt, or you could have when you're in a room, it's easier to support each other.
But on the media calls, it's just they unmute you, like they mute because they mute everybody at the beginning because obviously with that many people you have to mute them so we're not all talking at the same time and there's not background stuff. But it's also beneficial to them because they can unmute you long enough for you to ask your question, and then they mute you again, and you cannot unmute yourself. Like they control the muting situation.
Goodness.
Brad said, I'm not saying he does, but that's very spectrum coded of Tony to go off on something else the way he does. And you're not the first person I've seen bring that up, Brad. I've heard that people have wondered.
Well, and it's, we've talked about it before and nobody knows anything, but there's potential for that. He self-medicates quite a bit. He's up a lot. Like, he definitely seems like someone whose brain chemistry is wired a specific way. So, which can be beneficial or not.
that goes back to the conversation from Brawl Out, like why didn't he shut things down? And they were saying for some people that may just be because of how they interpret things, like that might be,
or backstage with the Wembley situation, because
that might be
because processing is really difficult processing systems is a piece of that.
Sure.
I mean, Brad would know, obviously, but yes.
Yeah, and so that conversation has come up several times, even outside of these things. There's just been examples.
I mean, it's unethical, and we're not doctors to say
sure,
anything
exactly.
about that.
No, not at all.
But
we're not
same
diagnosing
time,
anything.
It's a fair thought experiment in the right circle of people who aren't a bunch of mad people who can actually have a conversation like us and Brad.
Sure. And so USVA guys says, did you see the media member that was removed last night from the Mania Scrum? I did. And at first, did
they ask a real question?
But no, it's not what happened. So I saw it, and somebody thought it was a fan that was removed because they did that fan experience last time where they behind the journalist. So what happened was Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman were out there in character, clearly, because that's how they do their interviews. They interview in character, much like Timeless Tony Storm. And somebody said, I saw the clip later. Roman Reigns said, "Acknowledge your tribal chief," where he raises his hand. Somebody in the media booed. And he said, "Who did that?" And he was like, "Get out." And he was like, "I'm not playing." He was like, "Use your feet and leave the room." And the person did, apparently, because I saw Seahawk tweeting about it, and Seahawk confirmed that it was somebody who left, and they said his term was that she was crestfallen, that she had to leave. And yeah, I don't know who it was. I know two people who it was not, because one of my friends in the media, Kimmy, was like, she said people, I saw her say on Twitter today, she's like, people keep asking it was me. She was like, I wasn't even in the WrestleMania Scrum. She's like, I didn't get approved. Like, she was there at the show, and then she left and went back because she's doing WrestleCon stuff this weekend. Yeah. She's like, I wasn't even a member of media, so no, it was not me. And I can't remember, somebody else was like, yeah, people asked me if it was me too, and she was like, I wasn't at the Scrum.
So it was a girl, though?
Yeah, it was a woman. I feel like it was really in character, but I guess she didn't want to escalate things, so she left. And then I don't know what happened after that. I don't know who it was.
Here's me thinking they kicked somebody out for asking a real question.
No, because nobody had a spine last night, from what I understand, and asked.
No, that's what I heard. That was
somebody apparently from the Athletic got really close and then kind of backed off. And then
all
nobody
I saw was a tweet from one of the people I follow regularly that I trust. I can't remember which one of you it was, but it said that whole night and not one question about Janel Grant. Amazing.
Yeah, from what I nobody asked it. Nobody's gonna.
I mean, it was like that's because they want to get asked back.
Well, and it was interesting because a few of those people who did ask some more direct questioning at the Rumble were there last night. So I don't know. I didn't.
Maybe they're waiting for tomorrow. I mean, tomorrow tonight. From them. Perhaps. Tonight.
Perhaps, but I won't.
That doesn't to me. I mean, I guess don't get yourself kicked out on the first media night.
Don't boo the tribal chief.
Yeah, because I mean, let's be real. If you ask a real question on night one, you're probably not getting back in on night two.
That's a fair assessment.
I mean, I'm not saying it makes it right or that someone shouldn't have brought, but at the same time, I mean, maybe save it for tonight because you're not getting. I mean, you're gonna get kicked out and not get asked back tomorrow.
I don't think they'll get kicked. I don't think anybody's going to get kicked out because it's bad optics.
I don't think they're going to kick him out today, but I'm saying if they had asked a question yesterday, don't you see WWE having, I mean, it's WWE. They could easily be like, you know what? You can't come to tonight's Scrum. We've revoked your media privileges.
Yeah.
Because
there would be a lot of blowback, and it would be a PR nightmare.
Yeah, you're right.
They did that. So
that's
I don't
fair.
think that they will. But you do run that risk. But sometimes it's a risk you have to take.
I mean, I would
especially in this situation. I would. Yes.
Well, you gotta ask after, especially the fact that they brought it up this week after denying that they've the thing that pisses me off the most at the end of the day. You said none of this was true, so what are you worried about?
Right. Yeah.
You said
Yeah.
it's all a lie, and she's a big fat liar. So why do you need to put that out there?
Yeah. Right.
Anyway.
Yeah. So so since we've not been able to talk about Motor City Machine Guns at all because we've been gone for 2 weeks, and of course the news came out the day before before the first show we didn't do, that Motor City was at TNA tapings. There was a party held for them to celebrate them because they were not re-signing, and it had come out earlier that week that they were not going to be at the April tapings in Vegas, and Mike Gilbert did a quick little live stream, and I watched it, and that's how I found out that they weren't gonna, that something was up with them. And I was like, that's kind of odd that they took an indie booking that weekend, especially because Vegas is a big market for TNA. So it was a little, I was like, oh, okay, something's going on here. Then the news about the party for them came out, and I was like, okay, so they were free agents as of April the 1st. And so obviously the question has been, where do they go? And so of course people were like WWE, and I was like, I don't think so, for multiple reasons. And I will give you those reasons. For one, Alex Shelley has a daytime job. He is a physical therapist. He doesn't appear to do this because he needs money, and he appears to do it because he loves it. I follow him on Instagram. He talks about it, and he, even during the pandemic, like, he wouldn't wrestle because he did not want to expose his patients to anything, especially because a lot of his patients are elderly. He was like, they don't know me as a wrestler. They know me as Pat, their physical therapist. Like, they don't know me. Then he also, in the process of following him on Instagram, I have learned that he has a coaching and nutrition business. Not that he couldn't do that and still be employed with WWE, but knowing how they run things and the schedules they have, it feels like he's going to go somewhere that's going to allow him to keep his day job if he decides to. And just from the way that he talks about his coaching and nutrition business, it feels like he just really enjoys helping other people, and that he likes that he can do this and he can wrestle. Like, he has the best of both worlds. I don't see him giving that up. On top of that, he is very active on the indie scene. He is a champion in multiple promotions. He's Revolver. He has their world championship. He's their champion. He defended the title against Mike Santana at HOG wrestling. It was supposed to be for both titles. There was some shenanigans afoot, and so he still has his title, and Mike Santana still has his title. But so he's a champion there. He's a champion in some promotion I've never even heard of before. He's very involved in Prestige Wrestling. He just lost his title over there to Alan Angels, but I don't think it has anything to do with him not re-signing. I think that's the story. From what I've seen on social media, that's the story they've been telling. So I think the timing just happened to be that his contract was up. So I don't see him giving up his indie dates either. And I know Saban does do some indie things. They were in DPW for a few shows. They're not booked on the next show, but so they've both been doing, they've been doing some stuff on the indies, but he's like every single weekend, it seems like he's somewhere wrestling. And so I feel like he's not going to give that up either. And then on top of that, if WWE still doesn't want people due to age, both of them are over 40 years old.
Oh, yeah.
They're both over. Chris Saban's 42, and I think Alex Shelley's 41. So they're well over the WWE age limit.
The maximum age limit for WWE.
And speaking of Anthony Henry, like, that's why WWE fired him, because he was 37 years old, and they didn't want older wrestlers anymore. And as I said earlier this week, WWE did Anthony Henry, and then somehow AEW did him even dirtier by firing him while injured. I was like, that's a really hard feat to do. to out dirt for to
well,
do.
And then they essentially, Tony essentially admitted it by bringing him back in whatever capacity, whether he's getting paid or not. So I just those are the reasons I don't see them signing
with WWE. Apparently, some people thought they were going to be in the tag team match last night, that one of the teams was going to be a decoy, but it was really going to be Motor City Machine Gun spot, which didn't make any sense to me. I do think they're going to AEW because I think because obviously they're very good friends with the Young Bucks. We've talked about it many times. They are the reason that the Young Bucks were even on TNA television. I think the Young Bucks see this as an opportunity to repay them and give them the big payday they've never had before. They have never gotten huge paydays, and they have done so much for this business and for tag team wrestling and just independently what they do as, you know, as singles wrestlers. I feel like the Young Bucks are like, let us repay you in the way that we can. Come work with us. We'll give you good paychecks. You'll sign the biggest contract you've ever signed in your career. Let us do this for you. And you can come wrestle us. We need a big tag team. Our division's a little stale.
FTR, do that. I mean, they could
we're doing FTR versus Young Bucks 4. This is how stale we've gotten.
They could do their like what they were going to do with the Hardys before Jeff kind of like couldn't pull it together.
And just my guess, well, because even before, like, so last week after the Young Bucks defeated Private Party, I told Nikki, I said, wait, and they did a reference to Motor City in that match. They did a little wink, and I was like, wait a minute. And so I told Nikki, I said, well, what if the Young Bucks are clearly winning these titles. What if they come a dynasty? That's when the final's going to be Young Bucks win and Motor City shows up. I was like, I could see that being where this goes. And then they start.
That, or I mean, City. Double or Nothing is infamous for having big giant shockers. So
true. That is true. And
let
dynasty
people kind of like forget about them a little bit, because that's about a month and a half away. Or 2 months away. Like, it's a month and a half, 2 months.
And then
so kind of let people sort of like forget about them just enough, like, because everyone has reasons to buy it when it comes to wrestling, because there's so much of it. So and little fade a little, and then I mean that's a huge draw in Vegas, like for that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I was just thinking Dynasty just because it's the next pay-per-view.
Dynasty,
that makes really good. That makes a lot of sense. Or they could come between then and then have a match at Double or Nothing, but I can see them showing up at Double or Nothing because they typically do have at least one big surprise or one big return. And then also Motor City has ties with Hangman Page. That Chris Sabin is how Hangman got the Hangman nickname. They were at an ROH show in Detroit, and in front of Chris Sabin's family and friends, Hangman hung him with a rope over the side of the ring, and that's how he got the nickname Hangman Adam Page. So like there's that little bit of lore as well. And then of course there's like Christopher Daniels is there. They have the ROH tie-ins because they were, there's a lot of stuff that ties in with Motor City there. And so I just feel like that's where they're going to end up, just based off of all of that. Sure, if I felt, maybe Alex Shelley decides, you know what, I'm making a lot of money for wrestling. I'm just going to give these jobs up. But just the way he talks about it, I just don't see him giving up his day job. And in WWE, it doesn't sound feasible for him to keep that career and
he
wrestle the schedule that they wrestle.
Yeah, right. Well, no, and he'd have to move to Florida to go to the PC no matter what, because that's how WWE does it. So I don't. Sure. That's probably not going to happen.
Yeah. Right. And one of the things that I was curious about with this Motor City Machine Guns thing, like with them not re-signing, is because I know they've restructured and they're doing a lot of the per appearance contracts. So I don't know, that's part of it. But then I'm also kind of wondering if the Scott D'Amore, like, were they already going to leave, or if then they fired Scott D'Amore and they were like, oh, hell no, we're not re-signing in April. We're done. We're leaving. So I don't know if that Scott D'Amore thing pushed them, or if that was like the deciding factor, or if they were already just like, they've done, and that's the other thing, because people are like, I hope they re-sign with TNA. They've literally done everything there is to do in TNA. They have been multi-time tag team champions. Alex Shelley was just the world heavyweight champion. Chris Sabin had I guess the only thing is they could maybe give him an actual title run than the one he had like 10 years ago. And then he's won the X Division 10 times. they did hint at a heel turn with both of them because Alex Shelley is a heel on the indies and he's a phenomenal heel. He's very good at it. So they were kind of hinting that. So I was like, I guess maybe that could have been it, but like they've literally done everything there is to do in TNA. There's nothing left for them to do. So if they could get a really good paycheck, a really good contract for the first time in their careers in their 40s, then I think they're going to take it.
Yeah, I agree with that. And they're both smart. They're really smart people. They're not.
Yeah.
I mean,
and they like working with younger talent. They like giving.
Yeah, that's
like,
what I think, especially with like playing this gymnasium, like
right.
This city championship.
Yeah, Motor
wrestling,
City
like,
doesn't need to do that.
They're trying to help. Yeah, they're doing an anniversary event for a like 3-year-old indie promotion that works out of a high school gym. Like they could. Yeah. That's I mean, to me, that like I was excited because I was like, wow, those guys are great.
Yeah, they seem to be awesome. Everything I hear about them, they just seem to be wonderful people who are just really good people and of course incredible wrestlers on top of that. And they seem to want to like, and because even Alex has talked about like on his Instagram about like Jordan Oliver was like training with him and he was like, why do you want to train with me? And Jordan Oliver's like, you're Alex Shelley. Like, why wouldn't I? And then Alex had even said like a few weeks ago that most people didn't know, but the TNA office had him training people and working with them and teaching them how to work the camera, how to do certain things. Like Alex was doing that. And like he said, he'd worked with Masha for like 3 years when they first brought her into the company. He worked with her to help her on TV and work the cameras and how to work do promos and stuff like that. So he's somebody that both of them seem like they're somebody that and I think that's another reason AEW would be a good fit for them is because they can do some of the coaching stuff. And just to have two of the best tag team wrestlers ever to be involved in that division and to have people can go learn from them is incredible. And I'm wondering, I don't know what Kushida's contract status is, but I'm curious now that they have left if Kushida will follow them.
That's where I mean, the first time I actually saw Alex Shelley live was because he showed up when Kushida came to the Evolve show and they're pals. So
yeah.
He's like, I was the best man at this guy's wedding. I'm just like, the time splitters are literally standing in a ring here in this tiny little
right?
BOW.
And selfishly, now that they are bringing back Anthony Henry, I hope we get a rematch of Workhorseman versus Motor City that I got in December.
I would enjoy that. I could get into that.
Yes. USVA guy says, speaking of the indies, opinions on the retirement of Adam Thornstowe. I don't know if I'm familiar with Adam Thornstowe.
I am not either. Sorry.
That name doesn't ring a bell, and I don't know if that is a good thing or a bad thing.
I don't either.
That he retired. I'm not sure. I apologize that I could not answer that properly. Yeah, I would not be mad at that either. Vinkin said, oh, okay. Reno Scum. I am familiar with Reno Scum from being in TNA. I had not heard that he had retired.
Okay.
He was having, is he the one that had health issues, correct? Or is it his spouse had health issues? Something happened. I can't remember now. I'm trying to remember. There was something going on. Was he the one that had cancer and like took time away because he had cancer? Or am I confusing him with somebody else?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Maybe possible.
I know vaguely who Reno Scum is because I remember from some TNA, but
yeah,
I'm not as good of a watcher.
Trying to remember. I'm sure he will tell us in a minute. Now we'll go back to that. But Vinkin says Kushida should stay in New Japan with Kevin Knight. I would not be mad at that either. I love Kevin Knight. He's incredible.
Okay.
A medical professional. Okay. Yes. Now it's okay. Thank you. Now it's starting
coming back to you.
Yes. Yes.
Sam gets more stuff. I'm not on any lists, so I don't get any press information. I'm just like,
he said,
I have
Fightful made an interesting report. Apparently, I'm not going to say who. I wonder if that's what I see, that one of the Slacks is active and it's somebody who has a Fightful subscription, which is generally how I get information, is because this person shares this information with us. Oh, this is kind of, I don't know if this is what USVA guy is, I mean, I'm sorry, not USVA guy, Vinkin is referring to, but there is something in here about Jacob Fatu. I was like, since we were just talking about him, it says, one talent in GCW schedule is Jacob Fatu, formerly of MLW. He completed his final date for MLW back in February with MLW Super Fight. Fightful is reporting that Fatu has told others he has signed with the promotion as of this past Wednesday, which led him to being pulled from a scheduled GCW appearance. When Slap asked people within WWE, they wouldn't confirm the news. Several in GCW were discussing the rumors backstage on Saturday. Those that Corey Brennan spoke with in NXT have not heard of this as of yet. Fatu is the cousin of the Usos, Solo Sikoa, and Roman Reigns, the Bloodline, with a possible WWE debut being speculated by fans throughout his run on the independent circuit. We've reached out to Fatu himself and did not get a response as of yet. So, and Vinkin says yes, that's what he was referring to.
He was a pretty Jacob Fatu was a pretty big deal in MLW because I remember John pointing to him and being like, "Yo, look at this guy." And so I know when MLW was kind of doing okay a couple years ago, he was one of the bigger, like back when MJF was still there, and they had his
and then he's done a few GCW shows. He did a couple of matches. I think him and Zilla did a couple of matches together in GCW. So yeah. That I would not be surprised at all if they bring him in, and if especially if they're keeping this bloodline story going, I can definitely see him being involved in that. And then finally, I think we're at our last story. It's going to be time for me to go to dinner with my dad by the time we get this done.
I was going to say,
so Monday,
it's going to be actually time for WrestleMania.
Yeah, right. I was talking Matthew, one of my friends. He was like, "You and Mel are going to go for 5 hours on Sunday at this point."
I've been joking about that for the last 3 days.
I told Bob it's Monday because the letter came out, the CM Punk interview was out, and then the releases came, and he was like, "Y'all," and I was like, "Listen, we already still got to talk about Motor City Machine Gun from 2 weeks ago. Like, and I got the collective stuff, and Chris Samsa over here.
I got it. I do have the numbers. I was literally as we were coming on, I was doing the math.
Yes, Mel said she was gonna get her Chris Samsa on and tell you to give you some stats on my WrestleMania weekend viewing.
So you ready? Are you ready for the final count for as of now? And this is before watching tonight's WrestleMania, obviously. But I have you at 22 hours and 45 minutes and a total of 79 matches, which may be slightly lower than last year, but only slightly. And when you consider everything that's been going on, that's still impressive.
Is also not that is just since Thursday. This does not include Raw, which had probably
and I didn't include Raw because I started
Raw doesn't
Thursday.
Raw doesn't have that many matches to begin with.
Well, and I kind of start WrestleMania
we typically do start on
Thursday. Bloodsport, the early Thursday shows are kind of what I started. That's what I marked.
That is what she counts, but that does not include Raw, and it does not include Dynamite.
So,
exactly.
I start WrestleMania weekend stuff on Thursday and count from there. I know that we both watched. I mean, last year we both watched Raw and Dynamite. You watched Raw and Dynamite this week. Obviously, you watched, but and I did include the Thursday night ROHs though because they were on Thursday, so
they were on Thursday, and I had to. That kept me from watching DDT, the DDT Pro show, because I was covering. Covering that.
This number could be revised next week because you're going to add another 4 hours at least tonight, which puts you again and. You've pretty much done a day's worth of wrestling every one of these, I think.
Yes, I think you're right.
I notated it last time. I'm going to make sure and put it in the notes this time because that's a good idea. I'll look this week, but I know I wrote it in there last time because I didn't do it the first time. So I just need to go back through the notes, and I'm not going to do that today right now.
That's fine. We can do that later. But yes, and so at some point I will be watching since I have to cover Raw, so we'll be watching Monday. I will be watching Mania after me. Raw after Mania tomorrow and covering it. So maybe on Tuesday, we'll get in either Defy or Big Gay Brunch.
You'll get there.
Or DDT Pro. Probably Big Gay
you.
Brunch because that's the one I
believe
want to
in
see
you.
the most. But yeah, I guess we will hit this one because last night during all of this, one more big story popped up at like midnight or later. Apparently at the end of Collision, or towards the end of Collision, a graphic popped up of the Young Bucks saying that footage from All Out is being released. That was it. No other information was given. So I was like, well, whatever this is, internet's gonna, I'm sure, have a totally normal response. So we thought maybe totally normal response.
Totally.
Completely.
I'm sure it's gonna be a completely rational and
rational, normal, no hyperbole, no drama.
Well thought out.
Mindful. Did I say yes? I'm sorry. Apparently I said the wrong thing. All in footage. I think I said
sorry,
maybe I said all out.
My bad.
All in footage from Wembley. So then we were like, okay, well, are they gonna just show like Nikki was like, is it gonna be like a reenactment, like a Dark Side of the Ring reenactment of the story?
Like
is
BT
it gonna be
like do it in BT style?
Yeah. Then
that would actually
be
kind of funny, but
I would prefer that. Somebody today said that they didn't want to see it unless it was Muppets reenacting it.
That would be amazing. I would be
like
all
to see
into that. I agree with that person.
Yeah. So then there was room. So then we were like, okay, well, is it actually just going to be something related to the Young Bucks? Because they wrestled, the last time they wrestled FTR was at Wembley. So is it going to be something like this to kind of piss off FTR going into this match? Is it going to be this? Apparently not. From what is being said by multiple people, Sean Ross Sapp, Brian Alvarez, Dave Meltzer, it is going to be footage from Jack Perry and CM Punk. That is going to be shown on Wednesday night's Dynamite. Apparently, CM Punk's interview pissed Tony off to the point where he is releasing footage. The question has been brought up. Did CM Punk did he say something that invalidated the NDA on Monday? What exactly are they showing? Will there be footage that shows because Tony Khan has publicly said he felt like his life was in danger. Is this included in the footage? Is it just Jack Perry and CM Punk? From what we are hearing as of Sunday, April the 7th at 3:57 p.m., it is footage of Jack Perry and CM Punk. It is from what it sounds like, it is to clear Jack Perry and to make CM Punk look like a liar.
Well, and I saw Jack Perry tweeted that he's like he's like, some chokehold, I slipped it and reversed it anyway. And I was like, so I've heard, oh no.
Yeah, and so apparently there was a screenshot last night from Stella K. Stella K, I don't know if she's still a AEW makeup artist. She was at some point. I believe she was a makeup artist at the time of Question. And she apparently made some reference saying that it was like he put Jack in a UFC hold and Jack Perry got out of it. Then there's been rumors that people separated them physically. So there's been obviously a lot of rumors.
Well, and then there was a version where Samoa Joe was the fucking peacekeeper and not Tony. And that's
right. So there's been a lot of there's been
a lot of people witnessed it, and because everything in Europe and the UK is on CCTV, they have to have had it. And I know that they've said that they have it. So
Trevor Dame had a thread from listening to The Observer, and so I got some information. That was part of the reason that I came in here late, because I saw it right before, like minutes before, because I forgot to go to it. So from what Trevor says, from what, recapping what Mel says about the station, is that Tony was really upset by what CM Punk said, and that is what has pushed him to release this footage. Still not exactly sure how much of this footage is going to be shown. One thing, because it is from CCTV, there may not be audio for it. It may just be video footage. Some people within AEW who you would think have seen the video have actually never seen the video. However, this appears to be the video that Bryan Danielson and the other members of the
that committee,
I can't remember the exact title of that committee. This is the video that they saw that led them to the conclusion that CM Punk should be fired. So this is that footage, apparently. I don't know what the point of showing this is on TV other than to either because WWE spent the WrestleMania week taking shots at them all week long. From the CM Punk interview, Triple H was making comments. He took shots at Will Ospreay. I've ignored most of it because I really just don't give a shit.
Well,
because they're gonna talk shit about each other.
Of course,
I think it's pretty telling when the week of your biggest show you keep taking shots at.
Well, what do you care? I think Lyric made the point that like you shouldn't be worried about. You should be 100% worried about your product and not what the other guy is doing. And I completely, it's so right. Like that is what I've said the whole time about every product ever. Is like. You don't need, if you're doing a good job, you don't need to worry about your competition.
Well, and I know it's more of the stuff that we've talked about with WWE is look over here, not over here. So don't look at Vince McMahon. Let's focus on the CM Punk interview that really doesn't matter because he said a lot of I didn't watch it. I just saw quotes here.
I didn't watch it either because that's an hour and 50 minutes I cannot get back.
Yeah, the one thing I will say about CM Punk from the quotes, I did see him center the victims. He was asked about the Vince McMahon lawsuit, and he said that he has seen the text messages, and he said it was awful, and that Vince McMahon was a vile person, and he hoped and he wished the victims well, which I do at least appreciate that much. I was like, at least he took time out of everything, all the other nonsense, but that didn't even really pay attention to it because it's nonsense. Like I don't.
The whole thing is nonsense. Can you imagine if women were acting the way that these men are acting?
Right. And what do you expect CM Punk to say? Like he got fired from that company and WWE pays him. Like what do you expect him to say? He's not gonna. Cody clearly is different because Cody started AEW, so he's gonna be. But like I was like, what do you expect CM Punk to say? What do you expect? What do you think he's going to say? Of course he's going to.
First of all, he's out with an injury. So just like Vince and all the other people, and he's had this problem in the past, he needs his ego rubbed right now because he's feeling like low. So he had to go on Ariel Helwani.
I was going to say it's Ariel who doesn't push back on anything.
Well, that's the thing is like Ariel Helwani is a perfectly fine journalist when he's in check, like when he was on Real Sports with Bryant Gumbel as his boss, and he was surrounded by other people doing real journalism.
Yeah,
that's fine. But when he does his show, that's a gimmick. That's like he's doing it's supposed to be an MMA show, from what I heard. Even
it's the MMA hour. And Becky, and they had Rhea Ripley on after, and Rhea's in character
MMA hour
the whole
that took an hour and 50 minutes.
Yeah, right.
It's an MMA hour that takes 2 hours.
And they had her do a bit with Becky. Becky did like a little run-in thing. So you're not helping yourself by saying, like, they set up an angle after the CM Punk interview with Rhea and Becky to further their WrestleMania match.
It just means to me that's like Ariel Helwani gave his MMA hour that was 2 hours to the WWE to make a 2-hour promo freaking video for their giant show.
So that's why I didn't pay any attention to the CM Punk stuff, because I was just like, it's just noise.
Nothing we haven't heard before.
Right.
From both sides.
And the most important thing that happened on Monday prior to the releases is that Vince McMahon has released it. Like, we should be talking about Vince McMahon, not anything. And I think the interview with CM Punk was already scheduled prior to the letter coming. I don't think they're related. Like, I don't think they're like, we're going
But
to
it
send
doesn't
CM Punk
hurt.
to do this interview, but we're going to make everybody focus on that. Then we're going to make everybody focus on Triple H's comments about Will Ospreay, where he shades him and says, oh, if you want to go work at a company with a lighter schedule, you don't want to be part of the grind, or whatever bullshit he said. So yeah, and then you have Michael Cole, and then you have Dwayne Johnson going on Fox News talking about how he doesn't support Biden because of cancel culture or woke culture, or whatever bullshit
woke.
he said.
He said
Yeah.
woke in that context that only
Yeah.
madmen can say it in. I'm
Right.
taking woke back. You guys don't get to use it anymore.
Well, actually, and woke was used for something completely different, and was
They did the same thing
started,
with
it started in the black
cancel.
it started in the black community, and then white people decided to use it and use it incorrectly to begin, and that turned into a
It's
whole
the same
other
thing
thing.
as the cancel culture thing. When you hear people
Right.
say that in the wrong, again, we said it right at the beginning. I hear
Yeah.
a person say that, and I know exactly what kind of person they are. So
Yeah. So back to the footage being released.
why?
I don't know that this is a smart idea. It feels very
Terrible
Eric
idea.
Bischoff,
Petty.
WCW bullshit that Tony calls Eric Bischoff out on frequently.
Yes, he does.
So I understand part of it. Like, I understand wanting to take control of the narrative and fighting back against these things that are being said against you. They kind of did that with the Adam Copeland promo, whether it was, I don't necessarily think Tony was like, hey, go say this. I think Adam Copeland was like, you know what? Let me have a microphone. Let me say what I gotta say. Whatever, it's fine. They should have just left it at that, just ignored. I don't know that this footage does anything. I mean, sure, maybe it proves the point that CM Punk was wrong and he's lying, but is that going to change any people's minds, really? People who are Punk fans, are they still just going to be like, well,
yeah, Punk defenders are going to defend Punk, and
yeah, and are they going to be like, well, AEW edited it, that's why it took so long. This was 7 months ago. AEW edited it to make CM Punk look bad, and that's not really what happened. And
no, it's I mean, the British actually did an investigation because something went on there. They took over the backstage incident because it was an incident that involves their security. So
sure, right, exactly.
I mean, I'm not defending my company. I'm just saying that the idea is that
you're right.
You don't get evidence. That's why videos of people being abused by police don't come out for months after the incident, is because there's whole they don't release the evidence until after the case is
been
wrapped up or is administratively
sure.
acceptable to release it to the public, or that's everything. That's not like exclusive to with you. I mean, it seems really stupid. It seems petty, and it seems like you're being baited and you're biting.
Right. And
like, who cares?
From what they're saying, this is not going to be a bait and switch situation. We still have till Wednesday. It's possible that Tony Khan gets talked out of it. Maybe they just be like, you know what? We thought about it. Kind of like the Anthony Henry thing. We thought about it.
We thought better of it.
We're gonna reverse it. Brad makes the point that just remember, AEW isn't promoting the footage. They just said the Bucks will show footage from All In.
Fair.
Correct. That is correct. However, it is being reported from Meltzer, Alvarez, Sapp, that it's footage from Jack Perry and Punk, which has nothing to do with the Bucks. It does because they're the EVPs, but as far as in storyline, has nothing to do with them. It's very, Brad, that's what I thought too. But Brad, they're saying that this has, but from what these three people are reporting currently at this moment, it's the Punk Perry stuff, not FTR Bucks stuff. So perhaps not a bait. I guess it would be a bait and switch then. It would be. Like, perhaps they decide, you know what, we should do the Punk Perry stuff. Let's show the Bucks FTR stuff. Maybe they go that route instead. But from what is currently being reported, it is supposed to be the Jack Perry CM Punk stuff. Part of it could be because, we've been saying it, that Jack Perry is obviously doing the scapegoat stuff because he's eventually going to join the Elite. That's clearly where this is going. That's why the Young Bucks made the reference about him on Dynamite. Jack Perry did a couple of Bucks moves in his match a few days ago. He's going to be in Chicago for Windy City Riot. Like, so everything is pointing to Jack Perry joining them, which I think is smart. And I think it's a cool thing that they're doing with this. It's a cool way to bring Jack Perry back in. And all these Jack Perry interviews where he's like, where he's trashing AEW. And I was like, all of this is to join the elite. Like, he's just giving you bullshit answers because he's feeding into the story. But I don't think that if this is correct and it ends up not being anything related to the Young Bucks and FTR and is related to Punk and Perry, I think that it will do more harm than good. I don't think it will help AEW's situation, other than I do get the point of wanting to show, hey, Punk is lying about this.
The idea of trying to set the record straight, as it were, but
right.
Is it worth it?
No. I say no.
I say no also. I tend to agree with that.
Brad has a point that he's wary of Dave and Bryan reporting anything about AEW. That's a fair point. Sean Rossap has said, I think he confirmed that reporting. I could be wrong. I did see him say, don't shoot the messenger, like, with whatever they show. This is just what's being reported now. And again, this could all change. Maybe as of right now, the plan is Jack Perry, CM Punk, and then maybe they're like, this is a terrible idea. Let's just show the Bucks FTR stuff instead.
Right.
So who
and
knows?
Take the heat.
Brad says, by just saying if it isn't that footage, they didn't promote it. They didn't promote it. It's the media leaking it. I guess so. That's a fair point too. I hope I kind of hope that they just reassess the situation and decide not to, because it's not going to help anybody. I mean, sure, it may be clear, and some people will clear Jack Perry. Punk fans are going to deny it. And then it's going to just continue. Like, when does it end? So now you're just giving.
Well, you're rid of him now. Like, he's out of your organization. He's water under the bridge, as it were. Like, can we move forward, please? Like, get Jack Perry back in, or fire him and let him go work somewhere else, or do whatever. And just like, because right now it's like you're hanging on to one of the darkest moments in the company history, when you need to be thinking about the future and securing what you've got. You've now got two of the greatest wrestlers in wrestling on your roster. Like, chill out.
Yeah.
What's your deal? Like, what's your damage?
Yeah. So Eddie says TK seems to be finally going to make his move against Punk. Let's see how Punk responds. But then when Punk responds, Tony's going to respond again. So when the fuck does it end?
Yeah, exactly.
We're 7 months into it.
If this were two ladies, can you just, the blowback would be.
Listen, if this was Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa, from the shit that was going on with them, like,
oh my God. Every woman that made a comment about wrestling would be eviscerated on social media if this were between two women. No woman would be safe to comment on any social media.
They are running the risk of this becoming a pissing contest.
It's already there.
We already have a pissing contest between Triple H.
There. The pissing contest was when the Bucks.
A pissing contest between Triple H and Tony Khan.
And in fairness, I love the Bucks, but you have a pissing contest when two vice presidents can't talk to a member of their staff.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, if you really want to break this down as like employment, professionally speaking, they were CM Punk's boss and wouldn't even talk to him.
Right.
That's like if Bob went to his boss and his boss was like, I'm not talking to you. I'm not taking your calls. That would be a problem. HR would get involved. Like,
yeah, right. And I don't think that TK has to respond to CM Punk. We've already, because where does it end?
Well, he's gone now.
The best way TK can respond is to continue to put on good wrestling, and he doesn't
and let them
need
talk
to do
themselves to death. Just let them talk until they.
Because it's all this is going to do is invite more. CM Punk is going to respond because he has to. That's just how he's wired at this point, especially when it comes to this story. Then that's just then he's gonna say something to piss Tony off, and Tony is gonna say something again, and then it's just back and forth. And just end it now, Tony. Don't
Well,
Just
why
end
would you
it.
want to, like, you have no idea how
Promote your
far out of
shows.
control this could spiral. You could literally lose your deal because you can't, like, stow your ego.
Well, and what's his
cares?
what's his
He's
face is with David Zaz, or what is his name? Zaslav is apparently a Punk fan
Zaslav?
and had him on Collision, and he's with Warner Brothers. So like maybe dial it back a notch. I don't know. Maybe maybe Warner Brothers is like, hey, we want to see you fight back. Go do something. I mean, I guess that's certainly possible too. But I mean, it's just
wild times.
We do know that men love their pissing contests. So maybe Warner Brothers is like, hey, don't let CM Punk talk about you like
this
that.
Is what you need
don't
to
let
do
Triple H talk about you like this.
If this is the desperation move that you need to get the numbers that you think you need to get the numbers back on track for Dynamite, then you're essentially going the route of WCW, and we all know how that happened, how that ended.
Yeah, I don't think
please
this is
don't,
a good
please, because there's too much good wrestling. Like, there are still good wrestling matches on AEW now.
And like you said, you've got Okada, you've got Osprey, you've got Mercedes, probably have Motor City on the way in.
You've got Jay White, you've got
Megan Bain, who's still under contract and is doing Stardom stuff. You have
Mariah
this relationship
May.
with Stardust. Yeah, you've got too much good stuff to let CM Punk and Triple H throw you off course. And I get wanting to respond. Like, I completely get wanting to defend yourself. But at some point, you have to stop, or this is going to just keep going on.
Why did they say be the bigger
forever.
man? They shouldn't say that. They should say be the bigger woman. Be the bigger woman and walk away and do the best freaking wrestling show you can freaking do to show them up.
Yeah.
Because that would be the biggest, I mean, the biggest middle finger in the entire world would be to go out on Wednesday and just destroy the 18-49 and not say a word about Punk.
It would be. That also means the Young Bucks have to keep their mouths shut too, because they like to make little. So they all have to be quiet about it.
I mean, it really does show that. I mean, it's very petty. He's gone. Let him go.
Let him just talk to himself.
Live in the now. Live in the now. Move forward. I mean, progress.
So of course, who knows what happens between now and Sunday? Maybe the reporting has been wrong. Maybe Brad is correct. Maybe he did turn it into his gimmick. Vinkin's right. Scapegoat is Jack. Jack played his part. Jack is not. He's not this. What even if CM Punk was, if shows that CM Punk was the aggressor. He did his. He said things to provoke. Again, Punk should not have gone as far as he did. Of course, it's not to excuse anything that Punk did. But Jack Perry played his role and has now turned it into a gimmick. So Vinkin is correct. I do have to give you that.
Punk,
but
was involved in two backstage.
Maybe it is. Hopefully, the media.
He was involved in two separate backstage altercations, regardless of how that went on. Like, let it go. He was a poison pill, brother. Like, just let it go.
Yeah, maybe the media has us all wrong, and it is just going to be the Bucks and FTR. And
I hope so. I mean, honestly, that would be the okay bait and switch for me.
Honestly, yes. And
that's the one time that I would be perfectly acceptable. If you're going to use a bait and switch on me today, this situation is the time to do it.
Right. Honestly, this feud needs something, because I don't need to see FTR Bucks 4. I'm very annoyed by this.
Agreed.
I wanted it to be the infantry.
I was hoping to get back immediately.
And yes, I know I'm biased because I don't like FTR, but still, I don't.
Yeah, but it does. I mean, we've seen it a lot. Like, we need Aussie Open back.
To see it. I don't.
Or bring in, do somebody new, or bring in Motor City for a program.
Please do something. Brett says, I have to say I've missed this so damn much. So happy to have you ladies back on my
Brad,
Sundays.
Thank you. I miss you too.
Brad. And we've enjoyed talking to you guys, and we have missed you guys too. And thank you for being in the chat with us today for 3 fucking hours. Like you're watching
it's us.
Like you're watching a GCW show on the Collective before WrestleMania. And but yeah, so we'll be back. We will be back next week at our regular time. We will talk about whatever this ends up being.
And if you're watching now,
we can all laugh about how wrong we were.
I hope so.
Or we can be like, we were right, this was a terrible mistake, or maybe it'll be just the everybody got, and it's it's the Bucks and FTR and trying to add something to their thing, and we'll find out. But
Mel
tune in next week and we'll talk about it. What'd you say?
I'm gonna put my sad emoji hat on. And if you're not subscribed to this channel that you're watching right now, subscribe to it, please, because later on tonight after Mania, the wrap will be going live.
Yes,
So,
and that answers Vinkin's question. Is anyone going to talk about Mania later? Yes,
correct.
The wrap will be going
See,
live.
Vinkin, you're reading my mind. You're doing it in a good way. Right here on this channel, right after WrestleMania, Salty Scott and Keela Cash, our favorite friends from the wrap, are going to be going live yet again because they are troopers.
Yes.
And they will give you your post-game WrestleMania fallout tomorrow and tonight and tomorrow. So
yes. And USVA guys, have a great week, gang. I have to fly out to Chicago to set up for Windy City Riot. I will grab some awesome House of Torture shirts for you from our inventory. You're too kind.
You're the best. We love you so much. You just know what you know exactly what we love.
He does. Please have a safe trip. I hope that you guys have an incredible show because Windy City Riot's going to be phenomenal. That card is insane. I'm sure you guys are going to have a great turnout. Probably going to sell out all your House Torture shirts, obviously. Appreciate you grabbing those before they sell because I know this thing they're going to sell like hotcakes.
Oh, yeah. Everybody wants one.
Vinkin says, "Cry me a river, House of Torture shirts."
Oh, you guys rock.
Okay, we gotta go for real though, because I gotta go to dinner with my dad.
Gotta go. So happy birthday!
Anna, we've kept you too long. Again, thank you so much for all the support over the last couple of weeks. I truly appreciate it, and thanks for hanging out with us today. And we'll come here next week so we can talk about whatever.
Have a good week, everyone.